Decoding the Hidden Wisdom of the Rosicrucians, inspired by Dr. Robert Gilbert, written and published by Audible Aria. In a world where spiritual traditions have often been hidden, fragmented, or diluted, decoding the hidden wisdom of the Rosicrucians offers a powerful exploration of ancient spiritual science, sacred geometry, and esoteric alchemy. Drawn from Dr. Robert Gilbert's in-depth seminar, this work bridges diverse traditions: Rosicrucianism, ancient Egyptian mysteries, Christian esotericism, and modern vibrational sciences. Dr. Gilbert's mission is to democratize spiritual knowledge, empowering individuals to refine their consciousness, activate their energetic bodies, and walk their unique path of awakening. The dialogue explores timeless themes: the balance of Luciferic and Ahrimanic forces, the harmonizing role of the Christic impulse, and the enduring power of sacred geometry. It reflects on historical cycles, the preservation of ancient wisdom, and modern challenges like technological control, materialism, and spiritual bypassing. But this is more than a historical exploration. It's a call to action, an invitation to awaken the inner temple, reclaim spiritual sovereignty, and consciously participate in the creation of a new golden age. Dr. Gilbert emphasizes that true awakening requires grounding, integration, and service. Walking the middle path, refining the self, and aligning with higher purpose through disciplined practice. This is a journey into the forgotten landscapes of the soul, a guide for embodying higher consciousness while staying rooted in life's lessons. Whether you're a lifelong seeker or new to esoteric traditions, this work offers not just information, but initiation, an opening into deeper spiritual understanding. Let this be a gateway to inner refinement, higher consciousness, and alignment with the sacred forces shaping both the individual and the collective. The path begins here. The work is timeless, and the invitation is eternal. Chapter 1: The Rose Cross and the Journey of Incarnation. The Rosicrucian tradition holds a deep mystery about human existence and the spiritual forces that shape our lives. To understand this, we must look at the symbol of the rose cross, which carries ancient wisdom about life, transformation, and the soul's journey. The word Rosicrucian comes from the rose and the cross. This symbol represents the human experience and the spiritual process of change. In Rosicrucian belief, being born into a physical body is like a crucifixion. The soul, which is infinite and connected to the spiritual world, enters the limits of the physical body. This binding is seen as a form of suffering, much like the cross has symbolized pain and sacrifice throughout history. This idea isn't unique to Rosicrucians. Ancient Indian teachings describe the body as a sheath that contains the spirit. Greek philosophy, like Plato's, speaks of the soul being trapped in the physical world, showing how the infinite is bound by the finite. Being human means experiencing both limitation and growth. The physical body can feel like a prison, but it's also a tool for learning and transformation. Through this struggle, we can awaken and grow spiritually. Rosicrucians see the body as a black cross, symbolizing the heavy earthly experience of life. But within the body are energy centers or chakras, which can be awakened. As these centers open, they bloom like roses, symbolizing spiritual awakening. This is the soul's alchemy, transforming pain and limitation into growth and enlightenment. The rose cross symbolizes the soul's struggle and its eventual awakening. The body, once seen as a burden, becomes the place where enlightenment happens. Life's hardships become chances for growth, and suffering becomes the ground where spiritual roses bloom. This isn't just a symbolic idea. It's a process that unfolds over time through spiritual practice and inner work. It involves slowly awakening the energy centers and nurturing inner light until the soul fully blossoms within the body. The Rosicrucian teachings became known about 500 years ago through mysterious texts from Central Europe. These writings spoke of a secret brotherhood that protected ancient spiritual knowledge. But these ideas are much older, connecting to Hermetic teachings from ancient Egypt and even legends of Atlantis. The Hermetic principle of as above, so below teaches that the universe and the individual reflect each other. This idea is central to spiritual traditions, including Rosicrucianism. Egyptian priests believed their wisdom came from an ancient lost civilization, Atlantis. Greek philosophers like Solon heard these stories and shared them in their writings. Whether Atlantis was real or symbolic, the core idea is that ancient wisdom about the soul's journey has been passed down through time. These teachings are universal and have appeared in many cultures. They speak of life as a spiritual journey, where the soul descends into the body to learn and transform, and then ascends again through awakening. The Rosicrucian path is about turning suffering into enlightenment. It's about transforming life's limitations into spiritual strength. It's not about secret symbols, but about the human journey of growth and transformation. This path is open to everyone. It's a journey of practice and awareness, turning life's struggles into spiritual mastery. It's about transforming the soul's crucifixion into the blooming of spiritual consciousness. Step by step, we walk this path, awakening our inner roses, accepting life's challenges, and transforming them into the foundation for our highest growth. Chapter 2: The Alchemy of Crucifixion and the Purpose of Incarnation. The Rosicrucian path speaks of an ancient truth about incarnation and the deep symbolism of crucifixion. To understand this, we must explore why crucifixion is such a powerful symbol for the soul's descent into the physical world. Crucifixion represents suffering, limitation, and being bound to the harsh reality of life. But within this pain lies the potential for deep transformation. The crucifixion isn't just about suffering, it's about initiation. It symbolizes the soul's journey from the infinite spiritual realm into the confined, limited experience of the physical world. When the soul incarnates, it contracts, leaving behind its vast spiritual freedom to enter the boundaries of a physical body. This is his first crucifixion. The body becomes the cross. The soul is bound to it, experiencing pleasure, pain, joy, suffering, love, and loss. This is the soul's crucifixion, the infinite trapped within the finite. But why use such a painful image? Because crucifixion also holds the key to transformation. The suffering and struggle of living within limitation becomes the fire where the soul is refined. From this fire, something new is born, something awakened and transformed. Rosicrucians saw the body as a black cross, symbolizing the heavy experience of earthly life. Yet within the body are energy centers, spiritual gateways that when awakened bloom into life. These are the 7 roses of the Rosicrucian tradition. When activated, they radiate vitality, wisdom, and light. This is where the symbol of the rose cross comes from. The cross stands for the suffering of incarnation. The roses stand for the spiritual power that grows through conscious practice and inner work. The cross becomes the soil where the roses bloom. Suffering becomes the foundation for awakening. This is the alchemy of incarnation, turning darkness into light, pain into wisdom, and limitation into growth. The crucifixion isn't an end, but a beginning. It's the first step on the path to spiritual awakening. But this path isn't easy. It requires facing suffering, not avoiding it. It means seeing the body not as a burden, but as a gateway to higher consciousness. Incarnation isn't punishment, it's opportunity. Some spiritual paths see the world as illusion, something to escape. But Rosicrucianism teaches that the physical world is where the soul grows and awakens. The body isn't the enemy, it's the field where we plant seeds of awakening. It's a crucifixion, yes, but also the beginning of sacred transformation. This is a universal truth, echoed across spiritual traditions. The soul must descend to ascend, enter darkness to find light, and embrace the cross to awaken the roses. This isn't just theory, it's lived experience. Every moment of suffering, every challenge, every limitation is a chance to transform. Each is an invitation to awaken, to turn crucifixion into resurrection, to grow through pain into wisdom. True spiritual practice isn't about escaping life, but fully engaging with it. Awakening the inner roses, activating the energy centers, and becoming a living expression of the rose cross. Rosicrucians believe we're here for a reason. We incarnate to learn, to grow, to awaken. Life is a tool for refining the soul, for awakening spiritual power, for growing in wisdom and love. Each lifetime is a chance to deepen this process. This is why crucifixion is such a powerful symbol. It's not just about suffering, but about rebirth. It's about the soul's journey from darkness to light, from limitation to freedom, from pain to wisdom. This is a sacred alchemy of life, turning the cross into roses, suffering into enlightenment, awakening to our deepest truth. The journey continues through lifetimes, with each experience offering new chances for growth. We embrace crucifixion, not out of fear, but with understanding. We accept the path of incarnation, knowing it's how the soul is refined and the roses bloom. In this, we find life's deeper purpose, the meaning of suffering, and the true beauty of the Rosicrucian path. Chapter 3: The ripening of potential and the journey towards spiritual destiny. Throughout history, spiritual traditions have faced not only moments of enlightenment, but also periods of suppression and secrecy. During the Protestant Reformation, Europe became a place of restriction, where spiritual exploration was dangerous. In the Catholic churches, strict doctrines labeled inner truth as heresy. The body was seen as sinful, suffering as purification, and freedom of thought was crushed. In this world, the Rosicrucian idea that the body could be a tool for spiritual growth was radical and liberating. They taught that the body wasn't a burden to escape, but a sacred vessel for awakening. It was like a seed planted in the earth, holding the potential to bloom into the 7 roses. Symbols of the awakened energy centers. These roses represented the highest spiritual evolution. They symbolize consciousness unfolding, inner power awakening, and human potential reaching its peak. The body, once seen as a prison of suffering, became a crucible for transformation. Life itself, with its joys and pains, became the field for alchemical work. The Rosicrucian path taught that the body and life's experiences weren't obstacles, but sacred opportunities for growth. This view of evolution wasn't just biological, but spiritual. True evolution requires time, intention, and a body to experience it. Without time, growth is impossible. Without incarnation, there is no journey. Time becomes the framework where the soul learns and transforms. It is the silent teacher, the unseen guide. Within it, we face challenges and triumphs that shape us. Time refines us. Without it, there's no change, no awakening. Rosicrucians understood that incarnation in space and time wasn't a curse, but a gift. It was the stage for the soul's evolution. Seeds are planted, struggle through the soil of experience, and bloom into the radiant roses of awakened consciousness. From a higher perspective, something greater pulls us forward through time. Our future, awakened self. It's as if that future version of us is calling back, guiding us toward our highest potential. This isn't just poetic thought, but a truth recognized by ancient traditions. Greek philosophy called it telos, the idea that all things move toward their ultimate purpose. From a cosmic view, all moments may exist at once. But in human experience, we feel the movement of time, the progression of growth. It feels like a future. Realized version of ourselves is reaching back, guiding us through dreams, visions, and moments of clarity. It's as though the roses within us are already blooming in that future state, and their fragrance calls us forward, urging the next step. But this journey isn't automatic. It requires conscious work, discipline, and dedication. The energy centers must be awakened through daily practice. This is life's alchemy, not something that happens by chance, but through effort. It's the daily refining of self, the conscious awakening of potential. Ancient practices, passed down through initiatory traditions, guide this process. The Egyptians encoded this knowledge in their rituals, temples, and sacred geometry. Jewish Kabbalistic traditions mapped inner growth through the tree of life. Later, in Europe, these teachings evolved through mystical paths like Rosicrucianism. But even these traditions point to an older source. The Egyptians believed their wisdom came from Atlantis, a time when spiritual knowledge was vast and humanity lived in harmony with higher laws. They understood that spiritual growth was a slow, lifelong process of refinement and awakening. They knew that roses don't bloom overnight. They bloom through effort, practice, and engaging with life's challenges. The Rosicrucians inherited this lineage. They saw that incarnation and awakening were deeply connected. The body, though limited, was essential. Time, though restrictive, was necessary. Suffering, though painful, was the crucible of transformation. Without these experiences, there could be no growth. Without limitation, there could be no awakening. Without the descent into the physical, there could be no return to the spiritual. Incarnation, then, is sacred. The physical world, with its struggles and joys, isn't to be escaped, but embraced. It's the ground where roses bloom, where energy centers awaken, and where the soul is refined into its highest form. This is the teleological pull, the force drawing us forward. It's the call of our higher self, urging us to bloom the next rose, to awaken the next level of consciousness. This is life's great alchemy. It's not abstract. It's lived through daily engagement, conscious practice, and the choices we make. It's found in the challenges we embrace, the love we cultivate, and the wisdom we seek. This journey spans lifetimes. It began long before we were born and will continue long after this life. It's a journey of the soul, transformation, through crucifixion, incarnum. Chapter 4. the alchemy of opposites and the path of love and freedom. At the core of spiritual alchemy is the union of opposites. It's the merging of two opposing forces in the right way that unlocks transformation, bringing us back to the divine source. This isn't just symbolic. It's a fundamental principle of existence, woven into the universe and our own nature. At first, this union happens unconsciously. We are pulled by unseen forces toward experiences, relationships, and challenges that shape us. In the beginning, we move instinctively, like animals, following desires without awareness. This is natural. It's the first stage of the alchemical process. But as we awaken, we begin to see the patterns. We become aware of the forces shaping us, and only then does real transformation begin. With awareness, we can participate in our own evolution. We can bring love and consciousness into every experience. We can choose to awaken the energy centers within, activating the 7 roses of our highest potential. This is the path of mastery. This brings us to the demiurge, the force responsible for shaping spirit into matter. But is the demiurge good or evil? Does it create beauty, or does it trap spirit in illusion? Gnostic traditions debate this. Some see the demiurge as a dark power, keeping souls in bondage. Others see it as neutral. Neither good nor bad, simply a force of creation. And some recognize it as necessary, a crucial part of the alchemical process. The Rosicrucians understood that without the demiurge, without the crystallization of matter, there would be no journey, no struggle, no growth, no transformation. Matter, despite its limits and suffering, is where awakening happens. It's the soil where the roses bloom. It's the fire where the soul is forged. This leads to one of the most profound Rosicrucian insights, one described by Rudolf Steiner as humanity's spiritual identity, spirits of love and freedom. Love and freedom are the 2 great forces that define the human experience. They are opposite that must be mastered. Love is the force of unity, the pull to return to the divine, to merge into oneness. Freedom is the force of separation, the power to stand alone, to think independently, to be sovereign. And here lies the paradox. Love pulls us together, dissolving individuality into connection. Freedom pulls us apart, insisting on autonomy. One without the other creates imbalance. Love without freedom leads to suffocation. Freedom without love leads to isolation. The Rosicrucian path teaches how to hold both. To embrace love without losing the self. To embrace freedom without losing connection. This isn't just theory. It's lived experience, played out in every relationship, every choice. We long for deep connection, yet we also crave independence. The key is to find balance, to walk the line between the 2 forces without losing ourselves. Ancient Chinese teachings speak of the 9 heart pains, the deep struggles of love, loss, separation, and longing. These pains aren't punishments, they're guides. They show us where transformation must take place. Every heartbreak, every moment of loneliness, every desire for union is an opportunity for growth, a chance to refine love, to understand freedom, to hold both forces with strength. This is the sacred work of the human journey, to master love and freedom, to find balance between merging and standing alone. It's not an easy path. It doesn't avoid pain, but it leads to awakening, to the blooming of the roses, to the full activation of the soul's potential. And when that balance is found, when love and freedom exist in harmony, something extraordinary happens. The human being becomes what it was always meant to be, a bridge between heaven and earth, spirit and matter, a being that carries both light and grounding, a being that knows unity and sovereignty, a true spirit of love and freedom. Chapter 5. The Dance of Love, Freedom, and the Merging of Souls. The spiritual journey is a dance of merging and separation, a constant pull between unity with the divine and standing as a sovereign, autonomous being. This tension isn't a flaw, it's the heart of existence, the core of spiritual alchemy. The Rosicrucian path is about mastering this balance, becoming a true spirit of love and freedom. At the deepest level of spiritual experience, there is a longing to merge, to dissolve into something greater, to return to the source where all separation fades, and only love remains. This is the essence of deep meditation, tantric union, or moments of profound connection with another soul. It's the experience of losing oneself in the infinite, touching divine oneness. In the human experience, we feel this longing most in romantic connection. We seek to merge so deeply with another that all boundaries dissolve. We want love that becomes a gateway to the divine, where intimacy is not just emotional, but spiritual. In its highest form, love is a glimpse of the ultimate union with the divine. But alongside this, longing is another force. The call to freedom, the desire to be sovereign, to walk our path, to know ourselves as distinct and whole. Even in the deepest connection, there remains a center of freedom that cannot be surrendered. It's the force that says, I am me. I choose when I merge and when I stand apart. This is a great paradox. We crave connection, but we also need independence. We long to merge, yet we must remain free. The beauty of human existence is learning to hold both, to merge without losing ourselves, to stand free without losing love. This is the essence of becoming a spirit of love and freedom. It is about mastering both forces, merging deeply with the divine, with another, with life itself, and yet returning to one self, sovereign and whole. This balance is not a theory. It's a daily practice, lived in every relationship, every moment of connection, every choice to love or to stand alone. My late teacher, Dr. Samuel Sagan, spoke of combines. Beings on higher planes that merge so completely, they appear as one radiant consciousness. Yet, they retain the freedom to separate, to follow their paths. This reflects the human journey. We seek deep, transformative union, yet we also seek the freedom to be ourselves. The beauty lies in knowing how to have both, to dance between the sweetness of unity and the strength of autonomy. This dance isn't without pain. Deep love risks deep loss. Deep freedom risks loneliness. But within that pain is growth. As Khalil Gibran wrote, your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. The suffering of separation reveals the beauty of union. The challenge of merging reveals the strength of standing alone. This is the great mystery, that suffering, though finite, opens the path to infinite understanding. Each struggle to balance love and freedom deepens our wisdom. Each moment of pain refines us. This is the alchemy of the soul. The Rosicrucian path teaches that this balance is life's purpose. To master the dance is to become what we are meant to be, to merge deeply, taste divine union, and then return to stand sovereign, clear, and whole. This is the culmination of spiritual evolution. To choose love without losing freedom. To choose freedom without abandoning love. To be a free agent in the universe. Merged and separate, connected and whole, surrendered and sovereign. This isn't some distant goal. It's the path we walk every day. It's the work of every relationship, every decision to love, to let go, to stand alone. Each step on this path awakens another layer of our being. Each choice blooms another rose within. Every moment brings us closer to becoming fully awakened, fully realized. And so we walk the path. We embrace the dance. We learn to merge and to separate, to surrender and to stand sovereign. And through this we awaken. Through this we become. Through this we fulfill life's deepest purpose. To be spirits of love and freedom. Beings of light who have mastered the deepest alchemy of existence. Chapter 6. The Rosicrucian Legacy and the Sacred Path of Direct Connection. The rise of the Rosicrucian tradition marked a pivotal moment in spiritual evolution, not just as a secret society, but as a resurgence of ancient wisdom carried forward by initiates refined through lifetimes of spiritual work. Their roots stretched from Atlantis to Egypt and into Renaissance Europe, surfacing publicly in the early 1600s, though their origins were far older. These initiates didn't acquire knowledge from books. It was a spiritual inheritance, an inner memory of sacred truths awakened through deep personal work. The Rosicrucian path wasn't about external teachings, but about igniting the soul's capacity to remember, to reclaim ancient wisdom and shape it for the age they lived in. Their central symbol, the rose cross, embodied this alchemy. The black cross represented incarnation's suffering, the soul crucified within matter. The red roses symbolized the soul's awakening through inner transformation. It wasn't merely doctrine, but an energetic code of spiritual evolution. But the Rosicrucians were not an external organization like the Freemasons. There were no rigid hierarchies, no formal structures. It was a brotherhood of inner knowing, a communion of souls bound by shared purpose. True initiation wasn't granted by ceremony or rank. It was an inner awakening, a direct experience with the divine. This teaching was revolutionary. It threatened the Catholic Church, which claimed sole authority over salvation. The Church taught that without its sacraments and priests, souls were lost. But the Rosicrucians declared something radical, that every soul is sovereign, capable of direct connection to the divine, without permission, without mediation, without control. In an era dominated by religious authority, this was dangerous. The Catholic Church responded to heresy with suppression and violence. Earlier, grail traditions, like the Cathars and Albigensians, were destroyed for valuing spiritual autonomy and rejecting corruption. Their annihilation was ruthless. During the Albigensian Crusade, the phrase, "kill them all, God will know his own," echoed through the bloodshed. Entire communities were erased for daring to stand outside the Church's control. But truth cannot be silenced. The Rosicrucians were the next flowering of the ancient grail impulse. They weren't a rigid institution, but a movement of souls. A quiet revolution reclaiming spiritual sovereignty. The message was clear. Initiation is an inner process. Awakening is open to any soul willing to walk the path. No outer authority holds the key to the inner temple. The divine is accessible to all through the awakened energy of the soul. This is the legacy that endures, not confined to those who carry the Rosicrucian name, but living in all who seek direct connection to the divine, who awaken their inner roses, and who turn suffering into enlightenment. It is the path of the rose cross, crucifixion into matter and resurrection into light. The path of inner alchemy, spiritual freedom, and sovereign awakening, and it is open to all who dare to walk it. Chapter 7. The True Grail and the Path of Direct Initiation. The Holy Grail has long been misunderstood, not as a physical relic, but as a profound state of consciousness. The Rosicrucians knew this truth. The Grail is the awakened energy body, the vessel through which divine light flows. It is the inner structure capable of receiving the Christ impulse. Not a figure, but the pure energy of spiritual awakening that opens the crown, ignites the heart, and connects the soul to its infinite source. Immortality isn't found in objects, but in merging with this divine light. The real Grail quest is the inner journey of refining the soul, preparing the energy body to receive and circulate the Christic energy. But empire, those systems of control, twisted this truth. They turned the Grail into a relic to be possessed, hidden, controlled. Because if the Grail is within, it cannot be taken. It belongs to no one but is accessible to all who undertake the inner work. This is why the Rosicrucians were dangerous. Not for hunting relics, but for teaching spiritual sovereignty. They declared that no institution, no priest, no external authority was needed. Each soul was its own Grail, each life its own sacred quest. This defied the power structures of empire and church. Like the Gnostics before them, Rosicrucians were forced into secrecy. Direct connection to spirit was forbidden, for it undermined religious and political control. The original Rosicrucians avoided rigid structures. No temples, no ceremonies, no hierarchies. Their recognition was not through ritual, but resonance, through the shared frequency of awakened consciousness. Later, Rosicrucian organizations formed, adopting Masonic frameworks. But the deeper truth risked being lost. Because true initiation is not a ceremony. It is earned through inner refinement, through becoming the living Grail. The true path is not about hierarchy, but courage. The courage to awaken, to refine the inner vessel, to receive the light of the source. The Rosicrucians emphasized direct connection. True communion wasn't in rituals, but in shared consciousness, silent knowing, the resonance of souls walking the same path. Their lineage isn't preserved in texts, but in consciousness, carried in the souls of those who remember. Empires fall, institutions fade, but the Grail endures because it is within. Empire has always tried to sever this connection. The Druids were among the first targeted. Their deep communion with nature made them untouchable by external power. Rome razed their groves, burned their traditions, severed their bond with the earth. But the Druids held something deeper. They sensed the Christ impulse, not as doctrine, but as living energy flowing through nature itself. The divine wasn't a hierarchy. It was an alchemy of light, breath, and earth. As empire and church rose, this organic spirituality was crushed beneath rigid control. But the wisdom endured, hidden in symbols, kept alive in stories, passed in secret. It echoed in the mission of the Knights Templar, another Grail-bearing force. They operated within the church, but their work reached beyond it. They built temples aligned with sacred geometry, created systems of service that birthed the first international banking, rooted not in profit, but in spiritual support. But their independence made them dangerous. They weren't destroyed for wealth, but for their spiritual mission. They understood the Grail not as an object, but as an inner awakening. That made them a threat to the church's authority. direct access to the divine wasn't allowed. Only the Church could grant salvation, or so it claimed. And for defying this, the Templars were dismantled, but their lineage survived. Like the Druids, like the Rosicrucians, their truth lived on. Not in institutions, but in consciousness, in symbols, in the quiet awakenings of those who remembered. This is the Grail tradition. A lineage not of relics, but of light, not of conquest, but of inner mastery. And though empire has tried to erase it, the Grail endures. Because it is not rooted in systems, but in souls. Not about control, but sovereignty. Not about external permission, but inner courage. Each soul is a grail, each being a vessel for the divine. Awakening isn't granted by any power. It is earned through direct connection, through inner work, through walking the path of truth. This is the legacy of the Templars, the heartbeat of the Grail, the truth that cannot be broken. The work continues, quietly, secretly, in the hearts of those who remember, in the lives of those who dare to walk the path of spiritual freedom, sovereignty, and awakening. This is the path of the true initiate, the call of the Grail, and it endures. Chapter 8. The Fall of the Templars and the Resilience of the Spiritual Impulse. The story of the Knights Templar is not just history. It's a timeless cycle of spiritual resistance against forces of control. Their mission was more than guarding pilgrims or defending lands. They were initiates, guardians of the Grail tradition, builders of a spiritualized earth. Their vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience weren't for control, but to refine the soul, focus the mind, and dedicate their lives to a higher purpose. Their understanding of economic freedom was revolutionary. The first international banking system wasn't about domination, but about facilitating spiritual journeys. Wealth wasn't a tool of power, but of service, ensuring that resources supported the sacred, not enslavement through debt. They were laying a foundation where material systems served spiritual ends. But empire fears anything beyond its control. The Templars' autonomy, spiritual and economic, made them a threat. Plans formed in shadow. The King of France, driven by greed and fear, orchestrated their downfall. The Pope, manipulated by the same forces, declared them heretics. Classic empire tactics followed, accusations of blasphemy, twisted narratives, lies dressed as truth. Sacred vows were painted as depravity, their noble mission recast as dangerous heresy. The betrayal was swift, calculated, brutal. Torture, imprisonment, execution. Their wealth was seized, their legacy shattered. On the surface, empire believed it had won. But true spiritual impulses cannot be destroyed. Crush the body, but the soul endures. Burn the books, but the consciousness survives. The Templars knew this. They understood the cycles of death and rebirth. What is suppressed in one age returns in another. They did not die. They reincarnated, stronger, wiser, more determined. Spiritual evolution is eternal. Their impulse became an archetype of resilience. Their symbols and traditions absorbed into other esoteric orders, most notably the Freemasons. Echoes of the Templar mission survived within these secret grades, not as institutions but as inner flames, as archetypes of the spiritual warriors standing against oppression. Even today, we see their reflection. Movements for decentralization, for economic sovereignty, for spiritual independence. These are modern expressions of the Templar spirit. Where once the fight was for the freedom of pilgrimage, now it's for freedom of thought, of speech, of currency. The form changes, but the core impulse does not. It's the eternal battle against empire, the force that seeks to dominate, to sever humanity from divine connection, to crush freedom under control. And every age has its Templars, warriors standing on the front lines, sometimes with swords, sometimes with systems, sometimes with words. But always, the fight is for sovereignty. Always the stand is for freedom. And within this fight is a deeper spiritual truth. Absence awakens appreciation. Loss sharpens understanding. Just as fasting reveals the sacredness of food, darkness reveals the beauty of light. Suppression strengthens the longing for freedom. The destruction of the Templars didn't end their mission. It deepened it. It refined it. Therefore carried the impulse into the collective consciousness, ready to rise again. This is the alchemy of sacrifice. Loss is not defeat, but refinement. In silence, we learn the power of words. In darkness, we find the hunger for light. In suppression, deeper truths take root. The Templars' vows weren't about deprivation, but awakening. By holding back from certain experiences, they sharpened their spiritual senses. And when they returned to those experiences in future incarnations, they approached them with reverence and mastery. This cycle is universal. Fasting, silence, solitude. These aren't punishments. They are refinements. They awaken appreciation, deepen understanding, and strengthen resolve. The soul's journey is one of absence and presence, struggle and triumph, always refining, always evolving. And so the Templar impulse endures. Crushed in one age, it rises in the next. It manifests wherever souls stand for freedom, protect the sacred, and resist oppression. Whether in the battle for economic sovereignty, spiritual freedom, or truth itself, the Templar spirit lives. It is a spirit that understands sacrifice but refuses defeat. It is the fire of the spiritual warrior, the resilience of the true initiate. Even when crushed, the mission continues. The fight for freedom is never truly lost, because even if we fall in one lifetime, we rise in the next, stronger, wiser, more determined, until the sacred is fully protected, until freedom is fully reclaimed, until the divine light shines unobstructed once again. Chapter 9. The continuity of the soul and the vision of the eagle. The eternal journey of the soul is the deepest truth hidden within every ancient spiritual tradition. Reincarnation is not a belief, but a reality, an endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, shaping how we live, understand purpose, and confront death. It's not just philosophy, it's practical. Because when we grasp the soul's immortality, everything changes. Fear dissolves, courage ignites. The path of spiritual evolution sharpens into focus. The Rosicrucians understood this. Each incarnation is a chapter in the soul's infinite story. Every sacrifice, every lesson, every triumph is a seed planted for future lives. The vow of silence wasn't just discipline. It was alchemy. By sacrificing speech, an initiate refined power. In future lives, words would carry depth and force. The same principle applied to celibacy, poverty, restraint. Each absence carved space for future mastery. Deprivation sharpens appreciation, loss deepens understanding, and sacrifice refines the soul. But embracing this truth requires vision. The vision of the eagle. In many traditions, the eagle symbolizes the highest perspective. It rises above the landscape, seeing not just the river's surface, but its entire course, past, present, and future. While we stand on the banks, seeing only the current, the eagle perceives the full journey. This is the vision of the initiate. To see beyond the narrow view of one lifetime, to perceive the soul's arc across ages, and to embrace every experience as part of that unfolding. And this vision changes everything. It dissolves fear. Most fear is rooted in illusion. The belief that failure is final, that death is the end, that loss is forever. But when we know the soul endures, fear loses its grip. Death becomes a doorway, not an ending. Failure becomes a lesson, not defeat. Loss becomes temporary, not permanent. And in that understanding, courage is born. Courage is the soul's liberation. It's not recklessness. It's grounded in truth. It's the courage to risk, to experience, to fail, to love. Knowing that nothing is wasted. Every action, every choice, every pain carries the soul forward. Every sacrifice refines the soul's capacity to hold greater light. And with every experience, the soul grows. Because fear is the enemy of awakening. It constricts. It limits. It binds the soul in shadow. But courage opens. Courage activates the energy body. Courage dissolves blockages and allows divine light to flow. It is the soil where the roses of awakening bloom. This is why the Rosicrucians spoke of the permanent personality, the enduring self that carries the wisdom of countless lives, the self that remembers, the self that understands, the self with the eagle's vision. And it is through connecting with this permanent self that true awakening begins. When we rise above the personality of this life, beyond gender, beyond culture, beyond circumstance, we meet the soul in its fullness. We understand why certain experiences return, why certain challenges arise, why certain longings persist. We see that nothing is random. Everything is shaping the soul for its higher purpose. And from that vision, courage rises. Fear dissolves. The path of evolution opens wide. We stop resisting loss. We stop fearing death. We embrace the alchemy of life. Each experience becomes an initiation. Each sacrifice a seed that will bloom. Even pain is understood. Even failure is seen as refining the soul for future strength. This is the deeper freedom. The knowledge that every step is part of the soul's journey, that nothing is lost, that every fall leads to a greater rise. This is the Rosicrucian path. The roses of awakening bloom when fear dies, when courage rises, when we embrace the soul's infinite journey. It is the alchemy of the soul, turning fear into strength, loss into wisdom, limitation into awakening. And so we rise. We lift above the river of time. We claim the vision of the eagle. We see not just this moment, but the fullness of our journey. And in that vision, we find freedom. We find courage. We find the deeper truth of who we are. Chapter 10. The sacred patterns of reincarnation and the geometry of the soul. The spiritual journey is an eternal path, shaped by the geometry of consciousness and the refinement of the soul across lifetimes. Every thought, every act, every discipline carves an imprint, forming patterns within the energy body that shape the soul's trajectory. These patterns are not abstract. They are structures encoded in sacred geometry, the cosmic language that forms the blueprint of reality. The ancients knew this. In Egypt, priests and initiates worked with geometric forms to stabilize spiritual progress. They understood that without conscious cultivation, the wisdom of a lifetime could be lost in death, scattered as the body dissolves. But by shaping the energy body according to sacred geometric principles, they ensured that mastery endured. The soul carried its gifts forward, life after life, building upon each foundation. This was the hidden science of spiritual biohacking. Practices weren't arbitrary. They were precise methods to refine the soul's geometry, to construct an energetic architecture that preserved spiritual power across incarnations. Sacrifice, silence, restraint. These were more than moral disciplines. They were techniques for encoding strength into the soul's pattern, ensuring that mastery would not be lost but reborn stronger in future lives. The Kabbalah's tree of life echoes this truth, as does the ancient Egyptian symbol of life. Both represent the geometry of the energy body, the framework within which consciousness evolves. This understanding is why initiates like Daskalos carried mastery across lifetimes. His abilities, dematerializing objects, healing, mastering out-of-body travel, were not sudden gifts. They were the fruits of lifetimes of disciplined practice. Patterns refined over centuries, stabilized within the geometry of his soul. When asked how he attained such mastery, Daskalos spoke of Egypt, of ancient temples where the soul's architecture was cultivated with precision. He spoke of refining the energy body through sacred patterns, ensuring that the knowledge wouldn't dissolve at death, but would endure. He described the symbol of life as the framework that stabilized his abilities across incarnations, allowing his consciousness to rise without regression. This is the power of sacred geometry. It's the unseen technology of spiritual advancement. Through conscious cultivation, we shape our energy bodies, building structures that carry our gifts across the river of time. It's not about powers for their own sake. It's about becoming a vessel for higher light, constructing an inner temple that can hold the divine. It's about forging a soul so refined that it retains its wisdom, its strength, its mastery across ages. This is why the ancients practiced discipline, why they sacrificed, why they worked in silence and restraint. Every sacrifice planted seeds of mastery. Every practice shaped the geometry of the soul. And this is the same path available today. To cultivate the energy body, to align with sacred geometry, to consciously craft the patterns that endure beyond this life. It's spiritual biohacking, not through shortcuts, but through alignment with the cosmic code. It's understanding that the universe is structured by geometry, and that by aligning with these principles, the soul can stabilize its gifts and ascend, and it requires discipline, daily practice, intention, sacrifice. Because the patterns we create today are the structures we carry into future lives. Every choice shapes the architecture of the soul. Every act of courage, every moment of restraint, every meditation, every sacrifice, weave the patterns of the energy body that will determine the soul's evolution. The Rosicrucians understood this. The Egyptians knew it. The Kabbalists preserved it. All saw the soul's journey as intentional, shaped by the conscious crafting of inner patterns. And they knew that immortality isn't about surviving death. It's about carrying light through death, refining the soul until it becomes a living grail, a vessel that holds the divine across lifetimes. This is the true path of initiation, to align with the geometry of creation, to forge an energy body that endures, to carry gifts across ages, building mastery not through luck, but through discipline. It's not a path of ease, but it is a path of power, and it is open to all who choose it, to those willing to cultivate the inner geometry, to shape the soul into a vessel that holds the highest light, to become a living structure of sacred geometry, a soul that shines across lifetimes. This is the legacy of the ancient initiates. This is the true alchemy of the soul, and it begins now. with the choices we make, the patterns we shape, and the discipline we hold. Chapter 11. Sacred Geometry, Ancient Technologies, and the Power of Memory Across Incarnations. The path of ancient remembrance is not about learning something new. It is about reclaiming what has always been within. It is about the patterns, memories, and spiritual technologies shaped through lifetimes of discipline and initiation. The ancient Egyptians understood this deeply. Their initiatory practices were not mere rituals, but technologies of consciousness, designed to craft and stabilize geometric patterns within the energy body. These patterns formed a living framework, ensuring that the soul could retain its knowledge, skills, and spiritual mastery across lifetimes. The Kabbalistic tree of life, the Egyptian Ankh, and the Merkaba were never just abstract diagrams. They were energetic structures, maps for shaping the soul's geometry, encoding wisdom so that it could survive death and endure into future incarnations. When these structures are stabilized, memory is not just conceptual, it is experiential. The soul does not just recall information, it retains the abilities, initiations, and insights cultivated in previous lives. This is how initiates like Daskalos carried mastery across lifetimes. His command over healing, energy manipulation, and ancient languages was not coincidence. It was the result of conscious cultivation, refined through sacred geometry, anchored into his energy body, so that it could be retrieved lifetime after lifetime. This is why sacred geometry is more than theory. It is the foundation of reality, the structural language of consciousness itself. Every initiate who has ever walked the spiritual path has used geometry, whether through meditation, ritual, or direct energy work, to craft a soul structure capable of stabilizing spiritual memory. Without this geometric alignment, wisdom is scattered at death, lost in the dissolution of the physical body. With it, the soul becomes a vessel of continuity, carrying its gifts across the river of time. But why have these technologies been forgotten? Why do we no longer move stones with sound, open portals with geometric precision, or reshape reality through vibration as the ancients did? The answer lies not in the loss of knowledge, but in the shift of collective consciousness. In ancient times, these abilities were natural, because belief and practice supported them. The field of collective resonance upheld the manifestation of spiritual science. But as humanity descended into materialism and disbelief, the frequency of the collective field became dense. Ancient abilities were suppressed, not because they ceased to exist, but because the weight of doubt, skepticism, and fear overwhelmed the individual's ability to access them. Yet some initiates possess fields of belief so strong that they bypass these limitations. Their inner geometry, refined through lifetimes, acts as a shield against the disbelief of the age. Their soul structures remain intact, immune to the distortions of modern thought. This is the key to ancient mastery. Not individual power, but resonance strong enough to override the density of collective limitation. And this is why initiation today is more crucial than ever. It is about rebuilding the sacred patterns, realigning the soul's geometry, and restoring the lost codes that have always existed within. It is about stabilizing spiritual memory so that the gifts cultivated now will not be lost but carried forward, life after life. It is about breaking free from the amnesia of modern existence and reawakening the ancient templates encoded within the energy body. This is true spiritual biohacking. Not through shortcuts, but through alignment with the divine code. It is the construction of a soul that does not dissolve at death, that does not fall into forgetfulness, but ascends, lifetime after lifetime, toward greater mastery. And this path is open to those who dare to remember, to those who understand that the energy body is the true temple, to those who know that every act of discipline carves a pattern that endures. Because the ancient codes are not lost, they are waiting. The path is open for those who choose to walk it, and the wisdom we activate today will shape not only this life, but all lives to come. Chapter 12. Structuring the subtle body and the alchemy of the Golden Age. The path of the initiate is one of profound responsibility. Every thought, emotion, and action is an act of creation, shaping not just personal experience, but the collective field of consciousness. This is the ancient understanding that the subtle body, the energetic architecture beyond the physical, holds the blueprint of the soul's evolution, carrying the legacy of every lifetime forward. The ancient initiates knew this truth intimately. They understood that spiritual mastery is not about fleeting moments of insight, but about the conscious structuring of the energy body. Every vibration we emit leaves an imprint, forming patterns that shape our current life and ripple into the soul's future incarnations. It is through this refinement that initiates preserve power, knowledge, and memory across the river of time. Daskalos exemplified this mastery. His abilities, recalling ancient languages, accessing spiritual technologies from past lives, and retaining initiatory power, were not gifts of chance, but the results of lifetimes spent consciously refining his energy field. He structured his subtle body through practice, intention, and alignment with sacred geometries. This is how knowledge survives death. It is not a matter of luck. It is the result of discipline, the deliberate crafting of the soul's geometry. Yet even Daskalos acknowledged the growing difficulty of manifesting spiritual abilities in the modern era. He spoke of how the Earth's vibrational field has become denser over millennia. Ancient spiritual technologies, once natural, have been suppressed by the collective belief in materialism, doubt, and limitation. As collective consciousness contracts, it creates an energetic density that stifles spiritual potential. Why? Because the collective field is shaped by every human thought, belief, and emotion. When humanity's dominant vibration denies spiritual power, it suppresses it. The loss of ancient abilities is not a loss of potential. It is a suppression of resonance. But this suppression is not permanent. The collective field can be uplifted, and it begins with individual refinement. This is the essence of the new Golden Age. A planetary shift born from the conscious cultivation of the subtle body. By refining our energy fields, aligning with sacred geometries, and purifying our thoughts and emotions, we uplift the collective resonance. We dissolve the density that restricts spiritual power. We create the conditions for ancient abilities to re-emerge, not as myth, but as living experiential truth. Dr. Ibrahim Karim, founder of biogeometry, speaks deeply of this process. He describes the higher harmonic of gold, an energetic frequency that radiates from those who have refined their consciousness to its highest state. This is not a poetic image, but a literal vibration. It is the reason why saints and initiates are depicted with golden halos. The glow is the resonance of spiritual mastery, the radiation of the refined subtle body. And this golden light is not reserved for a chosen few. It is an alchemical state, available to anyone willing to undertake the inner work of refinement. It is born from transforming the base elements of fear, doubt, and limitation into the gold of spiritual enlightenment. It is the culmination of inner alchemy. Through this alchemy, we don't just transform ourselves, we influence the collective field. The resonance of the higher harmonic of gold radiates outward, softening the density of the earth's field, awakening spiritual potential, and preparing the ground for ancient technologies to return. This is how the lost spiritual power of ancient civilizations is reclaimed. Not through external conquest, but through internal mastery. This is why gold is revered in ancient traditions, not for its material wealth, but for its symbolic representation of inner alchemy. The real alchemist doesn't turn lead into coins, but transforms the lead of human limitation into the gold of spiritual sovereignty. And once that gold is attained, the desire for material wealth dissolves. The soul becomes the greatest treasure, radiating light that shapes the world. Dr. Karim's biogeometry teachings align with this ancient truth. His practices guide, initiates, in refining the subtle body, aligning with the vibration of gold, and awakening the higher harmonic. One simple practice is to hold a piece of gold and meditate upon its frequency. Not to possess wealth, but to attune the energy body to the vibration of enlightenment. The material is secondary. It is the resonance that matters. And when the subtle body holds that resonance, it becomes a beacon of transformation. This is how the new golden age is birthed. Not through external systems, but through the inner mastery of consciousness. By refining the subtle body until it radiates the harmonic of gold, we prepare the world for the return of ancient abilities. We uplift the collective, not by force, but by resonance. We dissolve the density, not through struggle, but through light. And so the work is simple, but profound. It is daily refinement, conscious thought, pure emotion, right action. It is the cultivation of the energy body to hold the resonance of gold. It is the preparation of the soul to carry this light across lifetimes. It is a commitment to becoming a catalyst for planetary transformation. Because every thought, every emotion, every act shapes the subtle body. And the patterns we create today become the foundation of our future incarnations. The density of the earth can be lifted, not through revolution, but through evolution. Not through systems, but through souls. The ancient technologies can be reclaimed, not as relics, but as living truths. We are the alchemists of the new age, the architects of a spiritual renaissance, the builders of a reality shaped by freedom, love, and light. This is the work of the subtle body, the alchemy of the future, the path of mastery that prepares the world for the return of the sacred. And it begins now. It begins with the choice to refine, the choice to align, the choice to remember, the choice to shape the subtle body for the evolution of the earth. Because the journey is eternal, and the patterns we shape today will echo across lifetimes. We are creating the blueprint of the future, not with words but with resonance, not with systems, but with the golden light of the refined soul. Chapter 13. The Alchemy of Gold and the Resonance of Spiritual Transformation. The higher harmonic of gold is not a myth, but a living, measurable reality, a vibrational frequency that radiates from the energy body when it has been refined through spiritual mastery. It is the signature of inner alchemy, the result of transforming the base elements of fear, doubt, and limitation into the radiant light of love, clarity, and spiritual power. This is the work of the ancient initiates. Not the turning of physical lead into gold, but the internal transmutation of the soul's density into divine luminosity. It is the cultivation of an energy body so refined, so precise, so aligned, that it vibrates with the frequency of the eternal source. This is why ancient masters were depicted with golden halos. Their subtle bodies radiated the frequency of enlightenment, the true gold born of inner transformation. Dr. Ibrahim Karim's research in biogeometry confirms this ancient truth. The higher harmonic of gold is a real, detectable force. It's not abstract. It's energy that can be measured, experienced, and consciously cultivated. The practices are simple yet profound. Hold a piece of pure gold in one hand, use a pendulum in the other, and observe the resonance that emerges. The pendulum's movement reflects the presence of the golden frequency, not as superstition, but as a direct interaction with vibrational reality. But the tool is secondary. The true catalyst is consciousness. The higher harmonic of gold is activated through deep states of love, prayer, blessing, and authenticity. When the heart is open, when the soul is aligned, when thought and action are rooted in truth, the energy body naturally begins to vibrate at this higher frequency. The pendulum moves not because of the object, but because of the resonance. The body becomes gold, and the light radiates from within. And when the golden frequency is absent, it is not failure, but invitation. An opportunity to do deeper alchemical work. It is the soul's call to purify, to refine, to transmute shadow into light. Weak centers in the energy field are not limitations. They are doorways to deeper mastery. They are the places where consciousness is asking for more attention, more love, more alignment. This is why tools like essential oils, sound frequencies, and intentional touch can assist the process. Each carries a specific vibrational code, a resonance that can awaken dormant centers. But the most powerful tool is intention. Focused, loving awareness is the highest catalyst for transformation. To sit in stillness, to direct conscious love into an energy center, to hold it in blessing is to awaken the gold within. It is to shape the subtle body into a vessel capable of radiating the highest light. And as each center awakens, as the entire energy field begins to resonate with the higher harmonic, the individual becomes a beacon of transformation, a node of resonance, a living catalyst for the new golden age. Not through force, but through alignment. Not through control, but through vibration. Because the golden age is not an event to wait for. It is a state of consciousness to be cultivated. It is born in the individual and radiates into the collective. When enough souls embody the golden light, the density of the earth's field dissolves. The collective frequency lifts. Ancient technologies, long thought lost, return. Not as myths, but as living realities. The world transforms when we transform. This is why the work is both personal and planetary. To refine the subtle body is to uplift the earth. To radiate gold is to dissolve density. To become a vessel for the higher harmonic is to become an architect of the new age. Every thought of love, every act of blessing, every moment of prayer reshapes the field, strengthens the light, and prepares the ground for what is to come. And so the path is simple but profound. It is daily refinement, conscious thought, pure emotion, right action. It is the consistent choice to align, to love, to bless, to create patterns within the energy body that resonate with the highest harmonic, to prepare the self to be a vessel of gold, not for personal gain, but for planetary awakening. Because the subtle body is the foundation, and the patterns we shape today become the resonance that shapes the world. This is the alchemy of the new golden age. Not through external revolution, but through internal evolution. Not through systems, but through souls. The golden age will be birthed by those who choose to radiate the light of gold, by those who refine their consciousness, by those who walk the path of the initiate, the alchemist, the master of inner fire. This is the hidden work, the sacred science, the true path of awakening, and it is open to all who dare to walk it, to those who choose the discipline of light, to those who shape their bodies and minds into vessels of gold, to those who refuse the density of the age and choose instead to radiate the dawn. This is how the world is changed. This is how the new age is born. Not by waiting, but by becoming, by radiating, by embodying. The choice is simple. The work is eternal. And the golden age is already here, waiting to be awakened by those who dare to shine. Chapter 14. Activating the goal frequency and the resonance of spiritual power. The higher harmonic of gold is the master frequency of spiritual alchemy. It is not symbolic or conceptual, but a living resonance, measurable, tangible, and transformative. It is the frequency that initiates the refinement of the soul, the transmutation of dense emotion into luminous awareness, the evolution from fear to love, from limitation to radiance. This is the ancient alchemy, known to the initiates of Egypt, encoded in the symbols of Christian mystics and preserved by the Rosicrucians. Not the turning of physical lead into metal gold, but the transformation of the human soul into a vessel capable of holding the divine light. In biogeometry, Dr. Ibrahim Karim has reawakened this understanding. He teaches that the higher harmonic of gold is a measurable force, one that can be detected, cultivated, and radiated through conscious practice. It is a frequency that transforms the subtle body into a vessel of light, aligning it with the deepest structures of cosmic harmony. The practice is simple but profound. It begins with resonance, holding a piece of pure gold, a ring, a coin, a bar. It's not an act of possession but of alignment. Gold, as a physical element, is a conductor of its higher frequency. By holding it, the body establishes sympathetic resonance with the higher harmonic. This is not about wealth, but about frequency, about initiating the energetic field into alignment with the divine. But gold alone is inert. The catalyst is consciousness. The higher harmonic of gold is activated through states of unconditional love, authentic prayer, deep gratitude, and true blessing. When the heart is open, when intention is pure, when the soul surrenders in love, the energy body begins to resonate. It vibrates with the golden frequency. It transforms. And this transformation is measurable. Using a simple pendulum, one can detect the presence of the golden light within the field. The pendulum does not respond to thought but to vibration. In a neutral state, its motion is subtle. But when the practitioner enters deep states of love, the pendulum responds powerfully, reflecting the activation of the golden frequency. This is not mysticism, it is resonance. And when certain centers of the body are blocked, when the root or sacral chakras are dense, heavy, or closed, The absence of golden light is an invitation, not a failure. It is an opportunity for deeper alchemical work. Vibrational healing begins with awareness. Essential oils, plant medicines, sound frequencies, and sacred symbols can awaken dormant centers. But the most powerful catalyst is conscious love, focused attention, intention, blessing. By holding loving awareness upon a weak center, by directing light into it, by blessing it with the frequency of love, the golden light begins to awaken. The energy body remembers. The resonance realigns. The field transforms. This is not force. It is alignment. It is the process of creating the right vibrational conditions for energy to emerge naturally. When the heart is open, when love flows, the golden frequency arises. The energy body becomes a vessel of light. The individual becomes a beacon, a radiant point of transformation, an agent of the new golden age. This is the ancient spiritual science. It is why the Egyptians built their temples as vibrational structures designed to awaken the highest harmonics of light. It is why Christian mystics spoke of the inner light of Christ, not as metaphor, but as a literal resonance. It is why Rosicrucians encoded the golden path into their symbols and initiations. Because the true golden age is not an external event. It is a state of consciousness. It is born within the refined energy bodies of those who choose to radiate the highest light. As more individuals awaken, as more energy bodies are refined, the collective field begins to shift. Density dissolves, limitation fades, the earth's vibration rises. The golden age is not a distant hope, but a reality born from the conscious cultivation of light. This is why personal work is never personal. Every act of refinement contributes to the whole. Every soul who embodies the golden light uplifts the collective. The new age begins not with systems, but with individuals, with those who choose love, who choose alignment, who choose to become vessels of light. And the path is simple, though not easy. It is daily practice, daily refinement, thoughts that uplift, actions that align, emotions that heal, blessings offered in silence, prayers that pour from the heart. It is about building the subtle body until it vibrates with the highest frequency of gold, until it becomes a temple for the infinite. Because true alchemy is internal. The transformation from lead to gold is the shift from doubt to certainty, from fear to love, from limitation to divine radiance. And when this transformation is complete, the world responds. The veil of density lifts. The golden age is born, not as a prophecy fulfilled, but as a vibration embodied. This is the path of the true initiate, the journey of inner mastery, the work of conscious evolution. It is not theory, it is discipline, not concept, but daily sacrifice, daily choice, daily refinement, because the subtle body is the foundation, and the patterns shaped today ripple into eternity. The collective field will transform when enough individuals choose to embody the higher harmonic of gold, when enough souls refuse the density of limitation and choose to radiate light. This is the hidden path, the ancient way, the true work of the alchemist, and it is open to all who choose to walk it, to those who dare to embody the light, to shape their energy body into a temple of gold, to refine thought, emotion, and action until they become conduits of the divine, to radiate the golden frequency that dissolves darkness and calls forth the dawn of the new age. This is how the world is changed, not by waiting, but by becoming, not by theory, but by resonance, not by seeking, but by embodying. The choice is simple. the work is eternal, and the golden age is already here, waiting to be awakened. Chapter 15. The Alchemy of the Three Elixir Fields and Awakening the Vibrational Body. The ancient alchemy of the three elixir fields is a profound blueprint for spiritual evolution, a map for transforming the human body into a radiant vessel of divine light. It is not theory. It is the living science of energy refinement, of activating the architecture of the subtle body, and of preparing the soul for eternal union with the infinite. The upper elixir field, housed within the head, is the domain of vision and spiritual consciousness. This is where clarity is born, where intention takes shape, where the geometry of thought aligns with cosmic law. It is the gateway through which divine light enters the human field. When this center is awakened, we gain the eagle's vision, the capacity to perceive beyond illusion, to see the unseen, to align with higher truths. The middle elixir field, resting in the heart, is the crucible of love, compassion, and resonance. Here, the energy of connection is cultivated, not emotional sentiment, but the deeper resonance of unconditional love, the authentic vibration of blessing and truth. The heart is the portal through which the soul meets the divine, where the golden light is born and radiates outward, illuminating the entire energy field. The lower elixir field, anchored in the belly, is the foundation of incarnation. It is the wellspring of vitality, the place where life force is generated and held. This is the root of balance, the anchor of the soul into matter. Without strength here, the upper centers collapse. Without grounded vitality, spiritual energy has no vessel. It is the forge where the body becomes strong enough to hold the golden light. But the true alchemy unfolds when these three fields are united, when energy flows freely, when light from the upper field descends, when love from the middle field merges, and when vitality from the lower field anchors the entire structure. This is internal alchemy, the conscious refinement of energy, the awakening of the golden resonance within every center. When one center is weak, especially in the lower field, the solution is not isolation, but integration. Draw upon the upper field's clarity. Visualize golden light descending, filling the body, radiating through every cell. Cultivate authentic love within the middle field, letting it pour through the heart, blessing the lower centers, infusing them with compassionate strength. Then, with focused intention, direct this energy downward, into the sacral, into the root, into the core, until the foundation is strong and golden. This is the ancient technology of energy cultivation. It is the method by which the body becomes a vessel for the highest frequencies. It is the practice that transforms fear into power, doubt into certainty, weakness into radiance. But external tools can amplify this work. Essential oils, plant medicines, sacred stones. Each carries a vibration. The right sound frequencies can awaken dormant centers. The right geometric patterns can restore balance. Even the silent presence of an awakened being can catalyze transformation. Yet the deepest tool is consciousness, pure intention, focused love, awareness refined through discipline. Because the body remembers, the soul remembers. The energy body holds the blueprint of perfection. It knows how to awaken, how to align, how to radiate the frequency of gold. The work is to remove the density, the distortion, the doubt, to clear the path so that the golden light can flood through. And when this occurs, the body becomes a temple, the soul a vessel, the energy field a beacon of the infinite. This is why the sacral center is sacred. It is not only the seat of creation, but the gate of divine merging. When infused with golden resonance, it becomes the space where the self dissolves, where the infinite is tasted, where the body becomes a vessel of cosmic union. This is the alchemy of tantric practice, the secret of transforming the body into a living grail, where every cell is a portal, every sensation a gateway to the divine. And though pendulums and measurements can reflect the presence of golden light, the true confirmation is internal. It is the knowing born from resonance, the sensation of unity, the moment when the body feels like a river of golden fire flowing with infinite presence. This is not fantasy. This is the ancient science of reality. Nature itself confirms it. Every shape, every color, every sound is a frequency. The geometry of a flower, the resonance of a mountain, the harmony of a sunrise. Each carries a vibration that aligns the energy field with the infinite. This is why ancient cultures built temples in alignment with the stars. Why they used color, sound, and geometry to shape consciousness. They understood that reality is frequency, and that when we align with the right frequencies, we awaken. This is the hidden path of the initiate. The journey of refining the body, awakening the energy centers, and aligning the self with the higher harmonic of gold. Because when enough individuals embody this resonance, the collective field shifts, the density of the earth dissolves, the veil between dimensions thins, the ancient technologies of the soul reawaken, the world itself transforms. This is not future prophecy. It is living possibility. The golden age is not an event, but a vibration, not a time to come, but a frequency to embody. And it begins within, with every thought refined, with every emotion purified, with every act of love, with every prayer offered, with every moment of conscious presence. It is the daily work of shaping the energy field, of drawing down the light, of refining the vessel until it radiates gold. This is the alchemy of the soul, the construction of a body capable of holding the infinite, the refinement of thought, emotion, and action until the self becomes a beacon of the divine. And this is the true meaning of mastery, not domination over others, but sovereignty over the self. Not external power, but internal alignment. Not control, but radiant freedom. Because when the body becomes gold, it becomes untouchable. It radiates a light that dissolves darkness, that uplifts, that transforms. And this is the path open to all. Not for the few, not for the chosen, but for all who choose the discipline of refinement, the courage of transformation, the devotion of daily alchemy. Because the body is the temple, the soul is the grail, and the journey is eternal. And the patterns we shape now, today, in this moment, will ripple through eternity, shaping lifetimes to come. This is the sacred art of the initiate, the alchemy of transformation, the creation of a body that radiates the frequency of gold, a vessel that holds the light of the infinite. It is the path of sovereignty, of awakening, of becoming. And it is open now to those who dare to walk it. Chapter 16. The Ethics of Power, Lightwork, and the Non-Physical Realms. The alchemy of true power is a path of sacred responsibility, a discipline of humility, and a devotion to service. It is a recognition that power, when misaligned, creates distortion. Not only in the external world, but in the very fabric of the soul and the collective field. This is why ancient initiates, like the Rosicrucians, did not seek power for its own sake. They pursued mastery as an act of service, as a responsibility to uplift, heal, and refine the world. Because every act of power is a vibration, and every vibration shapes reality. This is the first law of the initiate. That power must be wielded with reverence, humility, and alignment with the greater good. Not because it is morally correct, but because it is energetically inevitable. Every distortion returns, every misuse echoes back, and every conscious act of service ripples outward, uplifting the whole. This is why humility is not weakness but strength. The true initiate knows they are not the source of power. They are its vessel. They do not command but channel. They do not control but align. Power, when held in ego, creates distortion. Power, when held in service, creates harmony. And this is the great alchemy, the refining of power into service, the transmutation of ego into humility, the surrender of control into alignment, because the forces that shape reality, Lucifer, Ahriman, and the Christ impulse, are not abstract concepts. They are living, breathing archetypes. They are the currents through which human evolution flows. Lucifer is the force of individuation, of fire, of self-awareness. It is the spark that drives creation, but also the temptation that leads to separation. Lucifer inspires, but also isolates. It is the light that ignites, but when unbalanced, it burns. Ahriman is the force of density, of form, of control. It grounds, stabilizes, and structures. But when unbalanced, it traps. It binds consciousness to matter. It creates stagnation, fear, and domination. The Christ impulse is the force of balance, of love, of redemption. It is the energy that reconciles the extremes, redeems the fallen, and guides all things back to source. It does not reject, but transforms. It lifts density into light, ego into service, suffering into wisdom. And these forces are not enemies. They are necessary archetypes of creation. Each has a role. Each shapes evolution. The problem is not their existence, but imbalance. Lucifer without Christ leads to isolation and pride. Ahriman without Christ leads to control and fear. But when guided by the Christ impulse, these forces become servants of awakening. This is the true alchemy. Not the rejection of darkness, but its integration. Not the destruction of ego, but its refinement. Not the avoidance of density, but its redemption. And this is why the path of the initiate is one of service. Because every act of service is an act of alchemy. Every time the self is set aside for the greater good, the ego is refined. Every time fear is transformed into love, density is redeemed. Every time power is used to uplift, not control, the Christ impulse is activated, because power is a responsibility. Every action shapes reality. Every vibration impacts the field. Every choice echoes into eternity. And this is the deeper truth of egregores, those collective consciousness forms shaped by human thought and emotion. They are not fictional. They are real, living fields of energy. And they respond to every action, every belief, every ritual. If humanity feeds fear, control, and division, the egregores of density strengthen. If humanity feeds ego, separation, and pride, the egregores of isolation grow. But if humanity feeds love, service, and unity, the Christic egregore, the field of redemption and balance, rises. And this is the responsibility of the initiate, not just personal refinement, but collective service. Every act of love uplifts the field. Every act of fear adds to density. every vibration is a choice that shapes the world, because darkness is not defeated by war. It is transmuted by light. Ego is not conquered by force, but refined by humility. Density is not avoided but redeemed through conscious engagement. This is why the true path of power is quiet, why the greatest initiates walk softly, why they speak little, act with precision, and choose service over domination. Because they know the weight of their vibration. They know the power of their choices, and they know that every act of power is a sacred act of creation. This is the hidden law, the responsibility of energy, the alchemy of choice. And it is why the highest state of power is love, because love aligns all forces. Love uplifts all density. Love redeems all separation. Love is the force that holds the universe together. And this is why the higher harmonic of gold is the vibration of true mastery. Because gold is the frequency of pure love, refined through discipline, born of sacrifice and shaped by service. It is not a gift, but an achievement. Not an inheritance, but an earned resonance. It is the frequency of the initiate who has walked the path, who has faced shadow and light, and who has chosen love in every act. And when this frequency is embodied, the body becomes a living grail. The soul becomes a vessel for the infinite. The energy field becomes a beacon that dissolves darkness, lifts density, and calls the world into awakening. This is the alchemy of the new age, the creation of the golden age. Not through systems, but through souls. Not through external conquest, but through internal refinement. Not through control, but through love. It is the work of standing between forces, refining them and transforming them into light. It is the practice of wielding power with humility, of serving without seeking reward, of acting with love even when the world resists. It is the journey of the initiate, the responsibility of the alchemist, the path of the Christ impulse. Because the future is not given, it is shaped. And the vibrations we choose today will shape the world for generations to come. This is the sacred work, the true power, the alchemy of creation, and it is open to all who choose it. Chapter 17. The Dance of Light and Darkness. Navigating Luciferic and Ahrimanic Forces. In the journey of spiritual evolution, two powerful forces shape human consciousness: the Luciferic and Ahrimanic influences. These are not abstract ideas, but living spiritual realities, described in ancient traditions and still present within each of us today. Understanding these forces is essential for navigating the subtle currents that shape our destiny. Luciferic forces pull consciousness towards transcendence and ecstasy, offering visions of light and spiritual freedom. They inspire a longing to escape the pain of physical existence, to dissolve into the infinite, and to abandon the density of earthly life. While this impulse can feel noble, drawing us toward divine realms, it carries a shadow. The danger lies in disconnection, in rejecting the body and the physical world where true growth occurs. It appears in extreme forms of asceticism, denying the body and worldly experience, or in the modern pursuit of out-of-body states and endless spiritual highs, avoiding the grounding reality of daily life. On the opposite end, Ahrimanic forces represent density, control, and materialism. This influence seeks to harden consciousness into form, to sever humanity from its spiritual origins, and to lock reality into rigid, predictable structures. It's the force behind total materialism, the belief that only the physical is real, that consciousness is an illusion. Ahrimanic energy seeks to replace the mystery of life with cold calculation, to suppress chaos, spontaneity, and creativity. It offers control, but at the cost of soul, freedom, and vitality. Both forces have a role in human evolution. Lucifer calls us back to the spiritual, reminding us of our divine origins. Ahriman anchors us into matter, ensuring we confront the challenges of incarnation. But imbalance is dangerous. Too much Luciferic influence leads to disconnection, escapism, and an avoidance of life. Too much Ahrimanic influence creates rigidity, coldness, and a denial of the soul's truth. This is where the Christ impulse enters, not as a religious figure, but as an eternal spiritual principle that reconciles these extremes. The Christ impulse is the force of balance, integration, and embodied love. It does not reject the body, nor does it deny the spirit. Instead, it unites them, bringing divine light into earthly form. It teaches us that incarnation is sacred, that the body is a vessel for awakening, and that matter itself can be sanctified. The Christ impulse is a middle path, the conscious embrace of both spirit and matter. It's the path of living fully in the world while remaining connected to the infinite. It honors the earth, the body, and the struggles of daily life, while also holding the vision of the soul's higher purpose. It is the path of love, where light is not used to escape the world, but to transform it. For the Rosicrucians, this balance was central. Spiritual awakening was not about rejecting the world, but transforming it. It wasn't about abandoning the body, but sanctifying it. It wasn't about dissolving into transcendence, but about bringing the divine into form. This is the path of true alchemy, transforming dense matter with the light of consciousness, refining the self through the crucible of incarnation. This path is not easy. It requires us to embrace both light and shadow, to engage with life's struggles while keeping our inner vision on the divine. It asks us to face suffering without trying to escape it, to find sacredness in the ordinary, to balance the pull of transcendence with the necessity of grounded, embodied living. But it is the most rewarding path, because it leads not to escape, but to mastery, not to avoidance, but to transformation, not to fear, but to freedom. It is the path of becoming whole, of integrating all aspects of the self, and of becoming a living vessel for divine light. And in this, we find the true work of alchemy, not the conquest of darkness, but the integration of light and shadow into a unified, awakened whole. This is the path of the initiate, the path of the Christ impulse, the path of embodied awakening. It is about walking with love and balance, embracing the fullness of life while holding the vision of the infinite. Chapter 18. The Luciferic and Ahrimanic Balance, Ancient Perspectives, and the Alchemy of Integration. Ancient spiritual traditions recognize that human consciousness is shaped by powerful forces, often misunderstood or distorted over time. Names like Lucifer and Ahriman point to real energetic currents influencing our evolution. Engaging with these forces is to confront the deepest mysteries of incarnation, spiritual growth, and the alchemical dance between light and matter. Lucifer, often reduced to the image of a fallen angel, is more accurately associated with light, knowledge, and the desire to transcend matter. Linked with Venus, the morning star, Lucifer represents the impulse to merge with the divine through beauty, desire, and attraction. This is the force that calls us toward ecstatic experiences, spiritual highs, and the infinite. However, without balance, it can lead to distortion, hedonism, addiction, and escapism. It becomes a pursuit of pleasure for its own sake, detached from love and service. This is why ancient traditions emphasize balancing eros, the desire for transcendence, with agape, universal, compassionate love. Without agape, eros becomes ungrounded, leading to illusions of spiritual ecstasy. True spiritual alchemy requires both, honoring the desire to ascend while remaining anchored in love and service. Opposite to Lucifer is Ahriman, the force of identity, control, and materialism. Known in Zoroastrian tradition as Angra Mainyu, and later as Set in Egyptian lore, Ahriman seeks to crystallize spirit into rigid form, severing humanity from its spiritual origins. This force anchors consciousness into material reality, encouraging control, separation, and the illusion that the physical world is all that exists. It fuels oppressive systems and technologies that strip away our connection to nature and soul. Yet Ahriman is not inherently evil. The ancient Egyptians portrayed the pharaoh standing between Horus, light, and Set, darkness. Both touched the pharaoh's energy field, symbolizing that mastery requires integrating both forces. Set, though feared, was seen as an initiatory force, presenting trials that refine the soul, facing the challenges of earthly life. Pain, struggle, limitation was a path to spiritual strength and maturity. The modern world, however, has lost this balance. Some reject material reality, seeking only transcendence, while others embrace dense materialism, denying the spiritual entirely. But the ancient path calls for integration. Standing in balance between light and darkness, spirit and matter, transcendence and incarnation. Neither force is evil in itself. Both are necessary for evolution. The danger lies in imbalance, rejecting one force and overindulging in the other. The true initiate must embrace the tension, walk the middle path, and claim mastery over both. This is the essence of spiritual alchemy, transforming both shadow and light into awakened consciousness. It means honoring the body without being enslaved by it, seeking transcendence without rejecting life, and engaging with trials as opportunities for growth. This path is challenging, but it is the most transformative. Through it, the soul is refined, the energy body strengthened, and the golden frequency, the vibrational signature of spiritual mastery, is activated. The initiate becomes a living vessel for divine light, grounded in the wisdom of the earth. This is the legacy of ancient initiates, the path of integration, balance, and spiritual sovereignty. The true alchemy of light and darkness, where the soul is forged into its highest form. Chapter 19. The Middle Path, Balancing the Forces of Light and Darkness. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the story of Osiris and Set is more than a tale of betrayal. It is a profound reflection on spiritual evolution, balance, and the tension between light and darkness, order and chaos. Set, the god of chaos and materialism, dismembers Osiris, who symbolizes divine order and spiritual sovereignty. This dismemberment represents how incarnation fragments the pure, unified light of the soul. Entering the material world means the soul's light is scattered, lost in experiences of separation and illusion. Yet, the myth teaches that this fragmentation has purpose. The scattering of Osiris leads to the birth of Horus, the symbol of spiritual resurrection. It suggests that through struggle and loss, the soul can be reborn, refined, and ultimately more whole. However, the myth also carries a deeper warning. One piece of Osiris, symbolizing his generative power, his capacity for creation, was never recovered. This reflects the danger of losing spiritual vitality through excessive materialism. In Egyptian tradition, this life force was known as Sekhem. When Set's influence dominates, pulling consciousness into density and control, the soul risks losing this creative force. Vital energy fades, leading to stagnation and disconnection from higher spiritual purpose. Yet, Set was not seen as an enemy to be destroyed. He was a necessary force, representing the grounding energy of material reality. Without Set and Soul, the soul could not engage with incarnation or evolve through earthly experience. Set brought challenge and friction, which was seen as essential for spiritual growth. But unchecked, his force could trap the soul in density and disconnection. Ancient initiates were taught to confront and integrate Set's influence, not to reject it, but to master it. This required facing personal darkness, working through challenges, and transforming obstacles into strength. Mastery over Set was about developing spiritual resilience and awakening deeper levels of power. This integration is depicted in temple carvings, where pharaohs are shown standing between Horus, light, and Set, Tsobut, darkness, symbolizing their mastery over both forces. However, as spiritual teachings were simplified for mass understanding, the nuance of these myths was lost. Set became demonized, reduced to a symbol of evil, much like how modern traditions oversimplify spiritual dynamics into binaries of good versus evil. As a result, complex aspects of the human experience, like sexuality, desire, and challenge, were condemned or seen as sinful. But ancient spiritual paths emphasize balance, not rejection. In Tibetan Buddhism, the middle path teaches the importance of integrating extremes rather than denying them. Similarly, in Kabbalah, the tree of life contains two opposing pillars, one of severity and one of mercy, balanced by the central pillar, which represents harmony and the path of spiritual ascent. This reflects the ancient truth that wholeness is achieved not by rejecting darkness, but by integrating it. Spiritual awakening comes through embracing the full spectrum of human experience. It is in confronting shadow, facing trials, and transforming challenges that true growth occurs. This is echoed in Tibetan practices like Thongka meditation, where practitioners visualize both benevolent and wrathful deities. This practice is not about fearing the shadow, but about integrating it, recognizing that both light and darkness are essential aspects of the self. True initiation, then, is about mastering this balance. It's about embracing the tension between light and darkness, transcendence and incarnation. It's about acknowledging that the path to spiritual sovereignty requires confronting and integrating every part of the self. Because the darkness is not evil, it is the crucible of growth. The challenge is not punishment, it is the opportunity for mastery. And only through embracing both light and shadow can the soul awaken to its true power. This is the ancient alchemy of balance, the path of integration, the journey of becoming whole. Chapter 20. The Vesica Pisces and the Christ as the balancer of extremes. In the depths of spiritual understanding, life is shaped by polarities, forces pulling in opposite directions, creating tension and growth. In the Rosicrucian tradition, these dynamics are described as Luciferic and Ahrimanic influences. The Luciferic force draws us toward transcendence, spiritual ecstasy, and the temptation to escape the material world. It inspires spiritual longing, mysticism, and the desire to dissolve into light. But in excess, it leads to disconnection, avoidance of life's lessons, and addictive spiritual bypassing. The Ahrimanic force, by contrast, anchors us in materialism, control and structure. It values form, power, and security. But when dominant, it leads to spiritual stagnation, denial of higher realities, and entrapment in limitation. Both forces are essential. Without Luciferic energy, there's no aspiration toward the divine. Without Ahrimanic grounding, there's no structure to express spiritual truth in the world. But imbalance with either force leads to distortion. This is where the Christic force emerges. The harmonizer, the being that holds the center between these extremes. This balance is symbolized in sacred geometry by the Vesica Pisces, formed by the intersection of two circles. Each circle represents an extreme. Luciferic and Ahrimanic. The overlapping space symbolizes harmony and balance, where the Christic force is born. In European cathedrals, Christ is often depicted within this vesica, symbolizing his role as the reconciler between heaven and earth. This symbolism isn't exclusive to Christianity. In Eastern traditions, the Buddha is also shown within the vesica, embodying balance between desire and detachment. In Hinduism, Shiva holds the tension between creation and destruction. These archetypes all reflect the same spiritual truth. Mastery is found in balance, not rejection of opposites. For the Rosicrucians, Christ isn't just a historical figure, but a cosmic principle. The solar logos, the divine force radiating through the sun. The sun we see is a shadow of this greater spiritual being. And through spiritual refinement, this Christic energy can descend into the human energy body. This process is symbolized in classical Christianity by the dove descending into the crown, activating the body's sacred centers. The human body becomes the grail, the vessel into which divine light is poured. But long before Christianity, initiates practiced sun and moon alchemy, integrating solar and lunar energies, light and darkness, expansion and contraction within themselves. It was an initiation into becoming a vessel for higher frequencies. In the Rosicrucian view, the Christ impulse is the highest expression of this process. It's not about external salvation, but internal alchemical transformation. To become this vessel, one must balance the Luciferic and Ahrimanic forces, confronting the desire to escape into light and the temptation to control through matter. The Christic path isn't passive. It doesn't avoid conflict or surrender to comfort. It holds the deepest center, standing unshaken between extremes, radiating balance into both light and darkness. To embody this force is to become an agent of harmony, a bridge between heaven and earth. This is the true path of initiation. Not to escape the world, but to sanctify it. Not to reject the body, but to transform it into a temple of light. Not to avoid struggle, but to walk directly into it, holding balance as the highest power. This is the path of the grail, the path of true alchemy, the path of embodied awakening, and it is open to all who choose to walk the middle way. Chapter 21. The Christ as the macrocosmic emanation and the balance of cosmic forces. In the Rosicrucian tradition and many ancient esoteric systems, the Christ being is not merely a historical figure, but a cosmic force of balance and transformation. This understanding reveals the deeper structure of spiritual evolution, showing how the infinite source interacts with the finite world. Ancient mystery schools taught that behind every physical form, whether a planet, a star, or a human body, stands a spiritual presence. The physical is just the densest expression of higher realities. Central to life in our solar system is the sun, which gives light, warmth, and life. But beyond the physical sun is a spiritual being of profound radiance. In the Zoroastrian tradition, this being was known as Ahura Mazda, perceived as the consciousness radiating through the sun's aura. Ancient seers understood it as the initiator of life and cycles. In Rosicrucian thought, this being is known as the solar logos, the macrocosmic emanation of the infinite source. When this divine force took form upon the earth, it became known as the Christ being. But such an incarnation required a vessel, an advanced initiate who could withstand the descent of cosmic light. This vessel was Jesus, a soul refined through lifetimes of spiritual discipline, capable of integrating the Christ energy into his body, soul, and spirit. This incarnation wasn't just about spiritual presence, but about balancing cosmic polarities. The world is shaped by extremes. The Luciferic impulse tempts towards spiritual ecstasy, escape, and dissolution into light. The Ahrimanic force anchors consciousness in materialism, control, and rigid structures. The Christ force stands between these extremes, holding the balance. This is symbolized by the Vesica Pisces, the almond-shaped intersection of two circles, each representing an extreme. At the center stands Christ, embodying harmony and reconciliation. This concept isn't unique to Rosicrucianism. Early Christian thinkers like Origen of Alexandria explored how the infinite source could manifest within the finite world. He described Christ as the macrocosmic emanation of the Godhead, an infinite presence made perceivable to humanity. Similar concepts appear in other traditions. In Vedic teachings, it's the balance of Atman, the individual self, and Brahman, the infinite source. In Jewish Kabbalah, it's the Shekinah, the indwelling presence of God that nourishes creation. In Taoism, it's the Tao, the flowing essence behind all existence. All these traditions speak of a central truth. Behind every form is a guiding, balancing force, a dynamic energy that reconciles opposites and sustains creation. The Christic force isn't static. It's a living, flowing presence that holds tension, reconciles polarities, and ensures balance. And it's a force we are invited to embody. Not as a distant ideal, but as a daily spiritual practice. To walk the middle path is to become a vessel for this force, holding the tension of opposites within and allowing divine light to pour through. To embody the Christic energy is to become an agent of harmony, bringing balance where there is chaos, peace where there is conflict, and unity where there is division. This is the path of initiation, the core of Rosicrucian practice, and the essence of all true spiritual awakening. It is about holding balance between extremes, grounding spiritual light into the human experience, and becoming a living grail, a vessel for the divine. And this path is open to all who are willing to walk the middle way. Chapter 22. The True Nature of Christ, Illusions of Light, and the First Steps of Awareness. In esoteric Christianity, the Christ is not just a historical figure but a cosmic force, the solar logos, manifesting as the spiritual presence behind the physical sun. This force sustains life and consciousness within the planetary system. Similarly, humans are microcosmic reflections of the same divine source. The The path of spiritual evolution is about bridging this gap, allowing the macrocosmic Christ to transform the microcosmic self. This is captured in the teaching, not I, but Christ in me. It reflects the surrender of ego and the opening to higher consciousness. True evolution is about becoming a living grail, a vessel for the infinite light. But this is a complex process that requires navigating the paradox of multidimensionality, being both bound to the physical world and connected to the infinite realms. Here, the forces of Lucifer and Ahriman come into focus. Luciferic influence draws us toward transcendence and the temptation to escape the material world. It seduces with the promise of light without challenge, transcendence without struggle. Ahriman, on the other hand, binds consciousness into matter, control, and rigid form, leading to stagnation and disconnection from spirit. The Christic force stands between these polarities, not offering escape but balance, a presence that holds the tension of opposites. However, modern spiritual culture often mistakes any encounter with radiant light as an encounter with the Christ. Yet not all light is balanced. Luciferic forces can appear as beautiful ecstatic light, but they lead toward escapism, an avoidance of life's necessary challenges. This is where discernment becomes crucial. The true test of spiritual maturity is recognizing whether an experience is grounded in love and service or is an escape from the hard work of incarnation. The Rosicrucians understood this danger. They taught that we live immersed in an ocean of subtle energies, many of which move through us, influencing thoughts, emotions, and impulses. Yet most people remain unaware, assuming every thought is their own, every emotion authentic. This lack of awareness leaves them vulnerable to deception. This is why mindfulness is essential, not as a trendy technique, but as a discipline of spiritual survival. The first step of true initiation is learning to observe, to witness without judgment, to separate what is authentically ours from what is merely passing through. And in this practice, the first true alchemy begins. Awareness allows us to choose. Is this thought aligned with love? Is this impulse worthy of my higher self? This process reveals the shadow, thoughts and emotions we would rather avoid. But facing this shadow is essential. Integrating the Christic force means embracing all of ourselves. Light and darkness, joy and struggle, beauty and pain. But awareness is only the first step. Many stop there, assuming observation is the goal. In truth, it is only the threshold. Once we are aware, we must act. We must engage in the deeper work of transformation, choosing which thoughts to cultivate, which impulses to refine, which emotions to release. This is the real work of spiritual refinement, the lifelong discipline of aligning with the Christic force. Through this process, the inner vessel is strengthened, the self becomes less vulnerable to false lights, and a deeper balance is cultivated. From this place of balance, we can begin to radiate the Christic presence into the world. Not as an abstract ideal, but as a living force. An embodiment of harmony amidst chaos, balance amidst extremes. This is the true path of initiation, the real spiritual alchemy. Not escaping the world, but transforming it. Not rejecting the self, but refining it. Not avoiding struggle, but mastering it. This is the path, the work, the alchemy. Chapter 23. The 6 Essential Practices and the Alchemy of Desire. True spiritual growth is intentional. It requires disciplined awareness and conscious refinement of thought, emotion, and action. The Rosicrucian tradition offers a clear framework for this process through the 6 essential exercises, forming the foundation for inner alchemy and self-mastery. The first step is mindful observation, the practice of lifting the initial veil of unconsciousness to expose the internal landscape. The first 3 exercises focus on this awareness. 1. Observe thoughts. Without judgment, become aware of the thoughts arising within. Are they productive, loving, reactive, or clouded by emotion? 2. Observe feelings. Notice emotions without resistance. Are they rooted in the present moment, or echoes of past wounds or external influence? 3. Observe impulses toward action. Before acting, pause. What is driving this action? Is it fear, love, ego, or alignment with the higher self? These practices train the mind, heart, and will, replacing reactive behavior with conscious choice. They are the groundwork for mastering the self. Once awareness is established, the next step is refinement, transmuting reactive patterns into conscious, loving presence. 4. Positivity. Seek light even in darkness. This is about finding what is redeemable and nurturing it. Like the Rosicrucian teaching, where Christ sees beauty in the teeth of a decaying dog, this practice is about discovering hidden beauty and focusing on it until it grows. 5. Radical openness. Growth demands openness to new ideas and experiences. Rigidity leads to stagnation. Openness leads to evolution. This practice is about courageously challenging assumptions, embracing new insights, and releasing outdated beliefs. 6th, harmonization. This final practice is about aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions into a balanced whole. Harmonization creates integrity, where the inner and outer lives reflect unity and presence. But the deeper layer of the work is refining desire itself. Every thought, emotion, and action is driven by desire. In its raw form, desire is chaotic and impulsive. But when refined, it becomes a force of spiritual alignment. This process is known in Kabbalah as bur, the clarification of desire. The goal is to align personal desire with cosmic will. The question becomes, what do I truly desire? And is it aligned with the highest good? Unrefined desire is driven by ego and reaction. Clarified desire is in harmony with divine will, where personal longing and cosmic purpose merge. The ultimate state of Bur is when what I want is what God wants, and what God wants is what I want. It's a merging of personal and universal will, not the loss of individuality, but its highest refinement. In this state, thought becomes clear, emotion becomes pure, and action becomes effortless, moving in harmony with the greater whole. This merging creates an infinite loop of resonance, where the self aligns perfectly with the universal current. It's the shift from struggle to effortless creation, from confusion to clarity. But reaching this state demands constant observation, ongoing refinement, and surrender to deeper truth. It is the discipline of observing thoughts, emotions, and impulses, refining desire, and choosing which actions to cultivate. This is not about escaping desire, but about refining it, not about suppressing action, but clarifying its source. Through this process, the soul is purified, and the self becomes a living grail, a vessel capable of holding the highest light. This is the true path of the 6 essential exercises, the discipline of Ba, and the journey of alchemical awakening. Chapter 24. The Alchemy of the Heart and Collective Challenges of the Ahrimanic Force. True spiritual evolution is an intentional process of refining the energy body and activating latent potentials within, with the heart serving as the core of this alchemical journey. The heart is not just a symbol of emotion, but an energetic structure, often depicted in ancient traditions as a 12-petaled lotus. 6 of these petals are inherent, gifts from earlier stages of human evolution, while the remaining 6 require conscious cultivation through disciplined inner work. The Rosicrucian 6 essential exercises form the foundation for this process, each corresponding to the awakening of one of these remaining petals. 1. Control of thoughts. Cultivate clarity and discipline, aligning thought with higher truths. 2. Control of actions. Ensure actions are intentional, purposeful, and rooted in love. 3. Control of feelings. Master emotional responses. Observe without reaction and develop emotional maturity. 4. Positivity. Seek the hidden light within all experiences, focusing on what can be redeemed and uplifted. 5. Openness. Remain receptive to new experiences and perspectives, releasing rigid dogmas. 6th. Harmonization. Integrate these practices into a unified whole, ensuring balance across mind, body, and spirit. When these 6 petals are consciously developed, the heart becomes the central organizing force of the energy body, radiating balance, love, and spiritual alignment. This is the deeper purpose of the Rosicrucian path, to refine the self as a vessel for the Christic force, becoming a living grail through which divine energy can pour into the world. Dr. Robert Gilbert's course, Essential Teachings and Practices of Spiritual Science, offers a structured approach to mastering these exercises, focusing on developing the energy body and cultivating spiritual clarity. His work, available at vas.org, supports those committed to this path of refinement. But the path is not solely personal. As we refine our energy, we become more sensitive to collective dynamics and larger spiritual influences. One of the most significant challenges today is the rise of the Ahrimanic force, an influence that seeks to harden consciousness into dense materiality, severing the human connection to the divine. Dr. Gilbert identifies this influence in modern trends like materialism, transhumanism, and artificial intelligence. The Ahrimanic impulse suggests that humanity is nothing more than biology, that consciousness is purely mechanical, and that technological advancement is the ultimate salvation. This force pushes toward the blending of human consciousness with machines, a movement that risks severing the soul from organic spiritual evolution and diminishing access to higher spiritual forces, including the Christic current. This is not speculative fiction, but an unfolding reality, and it raises profound questions. Is there a deeper intentional structure to this movement? Is there a satanic undercurrent to these developments? In esoteric traditions, forces like Ahriman, Satan, or Set are recognized as real spiritual currents. They aren't simplistic personifications of evil, but necessary aspects of cosmic balance. However, when they dominate unchecked, they lead to imbalance, stagnation, and spiritual disconnection. Modern culture is suffering from such an imbalance. The dominance of the Ahrimanic force is visible in the loss of spiritual vitality and the increasing focus on technology as the solution to all human problems. The danger is not in the existence of these forces, but in failing to recognize and integrate them. But there is hope. Awareness is the first step toward balance. Recognizing these forces allows us to consciously engage with them, to integrate rather than be dominated by them. Through practices that activate the heart and strengthen the energy body, we can restore spiritual connection and balance material progress with spiritual wisdom. This is where the Rosicrucian path becomes essential. It offers the tools to awaken the heart, refine desire, and cultivate alignment with the Christic force. It is a path of conscious evolution and inner alchemy, a path that strengthens the self while contributing to the collective balance of humanity. And it is the path that will guide humanity forward if we choose to walk it. Chapter 25. The Cycles of Society, Psychotropic Renaissance, and the Danger of Luciferic Inflation. Throughout history, societies have oscillated between the polarities of the Luciferic and Ahrimanic forces, living energies that shape culture, belief, and behavior. Understanding these forces is essential if we are to avoid past mistakes and navigate present challenges. In the 1960s, America was deeply influenced by the Ahrimanic impulse. Materialism, industrial growth, technological advancement, and control over form. But the counterculture movement emerged as a reaction, driven by Luciferic energy. It sought transcendence, freedom, and spiritual awakening, rejecting the rigid materialism of the age. Yet, it lacked balance. The movement pursued ecstatic experiences, but often failed to ground them, choosing to drop out of society rather than transform it. This is the danger of unbalanced Luciferic energy, the temptation to escape reality rather than integrate spiritual insights into practical life. The mantra of the era: turn on, tune in, drop out. Embody this imbalance. While awakening and connecting to deeper realities is essential, abandoning physical responsibility is a loss of the middle path. Today, we face similar dynamics. The rise of the psychotropic renaissance, through entheogens, plant medicines, and altered states, echoes the spiritual seeking of the past. While this is a beautiful revival, the danger remains. Without grounding, the pursuit of transcendence risks becoming another form of escapism. One key danger is the phenomenon of Luciferic inflation, a challenge described in the Rosicrucian tradition. It occurs when individuals experience expanded consciousness and are tempted to believe they are spiritually superior. Subtle whispers feed the ego. You are chosen, powerful, unique. The ego swells and humility dissolves. The individual separates from grounded practice, losing sight of true integration and falling into spiritual materialism, believing that spiritual power is something to possess. This inflation feels expansive, but is ultimately an illusion. It leads to stagnation, pride, and disconnection from the deeper work of spiritual growth. And here, Ahrimanic forces creep in. Pride calcifies into rigidity, and the spiritual flow is lost. The Rosicrucians warned of this. Everyone wants to give themselves to Lucifer because that looks like fun, but few are willing to surrender to Christ because that requires discipline. The Christic path is about balance, grounding, humility, and service. It's about facing the shadow, doing the difficult inner work, and surrendering the ego. It's not about escape or superiority, but about disciplined integration. This is why discernment is essential. Not only for individuals, but for society. Discernment is the ability to sense imbalance, to ask, am I walking the middle path, or have I been seduced by an extreme? It is the capacity to pause, reflect, and choose consciously. The challenge of the psychotropic renaissance is that, while personal healing and insight are vital, they are incomplete if they don't lead to service. True spiritual growth is not about personal power alone, but about contributing to the collective, uplifting others, and transforming society. Because spiritual awakening is not for the self alone, it is for the world. And if awakening doesn't lead to love, humility, and service, it is incomplete. This is why history's highest initiates emphasize humility and warned of pride. They understood the ease with which one can mistake spiritual experiences for spiritual mastery. The safeguard is always balance, holding both light and shadow, walking the middle path and staying grounded while reaching for the stars. This is the true alchemy, the heart of the spiritual path, and the work of awakening that awaits us all. Chapter 26. The Karma of Lucifer, the Ahrimanic Trap, and the Quest for True Balance. In the cosmic dance of evolution, spiritual forces like Lucifer and Ahriman shape human consciousness. The Rosicrucian tradition teaches that when we swing too far toward one extreme, we risk collapsing into the opposite. A principle called the hidden law of spiritual karma. As Dr. Gilbert explains, the karma of Lucifer is Ahriman. Overindulgence in transcendence, especially through modern psychotropic practices, can lead to physical imbalance, burnout, and a collapse into dense materialism. When the spiritual journey becomes ungrounded, chasing ecstatic experiences without integration, the body suffers, brain chemistry destabilizes, and confusion sets in. What begins as enlightenment can spiral into stagnation. This is how the Ahrimanic force takes hold, pulling consciousness into disillusionment and density. It's a real danger for those who seek transcendence without understanding the need for balance. Because true spiritual growth isn't about ascension alone. It's about integration. It requires moving between spirit and matter, awakening to higher realities, while remaining rooted in responsibility and daily life. The temptation of luciferic inflation arises when profound awakenings lead to ego distortion. Moments of expanded consciousness can make individuals feel superior, chosen, or enlightened. But true spiritual mastery is measured not by singular experiences, but by how we integrate insights into grounded action, how we live with clarity, love, and service. This is where modern culture struggles. Our systems thrive on imbalance. Social media, for instance, fuels the Ahrimanic impulse. Platforms manipulate behavior, rewarding compliance and punishing dissent through algorithmic control. Each like, comment, and share becomes part of a subtle system designed to shape beliefs and reactions. This is techno-feudalism, an invisible structure that turns people into stimulus-response organisms. Dr. Gilbert notes that figures like Mark Zuckerberg, though not inherently evil, represent focal points of these systems. Their creations become extensions of Ahrimanic forces, controlling and hardening consciousness. But it's not about demonizing individuals. It's about understanding the larger dynamics of spiritual forces that influence society. Systems evolve, but behind them, these forces persist. They shape belief, culture, and behavior. Luciferic, Ahrimanic, and Christic energies moving through history. And discernment is the only safeguard. Discernment is the ability to ask, does this structure serve balance, or does it perpetuate control? It requires seeing through surface appearances, recognizing where imbalance arises, and restoring harmony. And it demands we let go of the illusion of enemies. Dr. Gilbert teaches that no being is inherently evil. The enemy is imbalance. Systems, organizations, and even individuals can be redeemed. Within everyone is a spark of the divine, a potential for awakening and transformation. Redemption is always possible, but we must remain aware. Coercive systems reward compliance and silence dissent. Modern control is subtle, shaping belief through what is seen, heard, and shared. The erosion of free speech is the greatest threat to spiritual evolution. If truth cannot be spoken, if challenges to oppressive systems are censored, we risk an Ahrimanic dystopia, a world ruled by control, limitation, and soulless materialism. But it's not too late. We can still hold the balance. We can cultivate discernment, refine our consciousness, and stand as vessels for the Christic force, the energy of balance, love, and integration. And through this, we become agents of collective transformation. Because true change doesn't come from fighting enemies. It comes from mastering ourselves, holding the center, and radiating balance into the world. This is how we break the cycle. This is how we change the future. Chapter 27. Freedom of Speech, Sacred Geometry, and the Dual Legacy of Masonry. In the unfolding drama of human consciousness, the battle for freedom of thought and speech stands as a defining struggle. Technology has gifted humanity with the unprecedented ability to share ideas globally, catalyzing movements of awakening. Yet, simultaneously, forces of censorship and control escalate. Subtle mechanisms shaping, limiting, and directing what can be expressed. Dr. Robert Gilbert emphasizes this tension, noting how even within his own work, there are subjects he hesitates to speak about publicly. Not because the truths are unclear, but because such discourse risks immediate censorship, demonetization, or deplatforming. This reflects the deeper challenge of discernment and strategy. One path forward is to focus on universal principles, speaking truth through timeless values that bypass restrictions, encouraging individuals to apply insights in their own lives. Another path is active support, standing behind organizations and leaders who defend open discourse, intellectual freedom, and spiritual sovereignty. In doing so, individuals can create resilient ecosystems where truth can still be shared. Because freedom of speech is not just a philosophical concept, it is the foundation for spiritual evolution. When speech is silenced, the potential for awakening diminishes. And this is where spiritual communities must step forward, becoming creators of sovereign spaces where truth is protected and cultivated. This conversation also opens the door to deeper layers. Specifically, the evolving influence of ancient organizations like the Freemasons. The Masonic tradition is one of the most misunderstood spiritual systems in modern culture. For some, it appears as a simple fraternal gathering rooted in symbolic ritual. For others, it is perceived as a hidden force, shaping global events from behind the scenes. But as Dr. Gilbert suggests, the reality is far more nuanced. Historically, Masonry divides into two traditions, operative and speculative. Operative Masonry refers to the ancient lineage of builders who mastered sacred geometry, constructing cathedrals, temples, and structures aligned with Earth's energetic grids. These were not just architectural feats, but spiritual technologies, designed to amplify and anchor divine energies into the material world. Temples were crafted with precision, aligned to cosmic forces, intended as vessels to elevate consciousness and harmonize the Earth's energy fields. Speculative Masonry emerged as these operative skills faded. Beginning in the 1700s, Masonry transitioned from physical craftsmanship to spiritual philosophy. The focus shifted to building inner temples within consciousness, refining the human vessel to hold higher awareness. Through ritual and symbolism, speculative Masons sought to initiate spiritual growth, crafting temples of the soul. But as with many ancient traditions, the purity of intent did not always survive this transition. Over time, ritual became hollow for some. Symbols lost depth. What began as a profound initiatory tradition often devolved into social gatherings disconnected from their deeper spiritual roots. Yet not all is lost, for within Masonry, just as within other ancient systems, there remains a seed of the original wisdom. Certain lodges, certain initiates still hold true to the deeper knowledge, still practice with reverence, and still understand the sacred art of energetic alignment. And the question arises, is Masonry still a global force, or just an echo of its former power? The answer is layered. While many lodges today focus on fraternity and ritual symbolism, there exist inner circles that still wield significant initiatory influence. Structures of energy and consciousness, both local and global, are still shaped by those who retain ancient wisdom. But power within Masonry is not monolithic. Not every member is an initiate. Not every lodge carries the same spiritual weight. This leads to a deeper realization. The most powerful forces are rarely what is seen, but what is hidden. True power exists in the concealed, in the occult, which simply means that which is hidden. The real question is not whether Masons still hold power, but which aspects of the original tradition remain alive. Which rituals are still true? Which sacred geometries are still honored? And which initiates are still devoted to building inner and outer temples that uplift the world? Because at its highest level, Masonry was always about crafting the foundation for the next golden age. It was about constructing not just physical temples, but temples of consciousness. Refined, aligned vessels capable of holding divine light. And that work is not confined to history. It is the work of today. To become a living temple, to refine the energy body, to align oneself with sacred geometry, to become a vessel for higher consciousness. This is the path of the true initiate. Whether inside or outside of Masonry, this is the universal task. To be an operative Mason of consciousness, a builder of inner and outer temples, a guardian of light in a world still learning to see. This is the challenge. This is the calling. This is the work. Chapter 28. The Royal Art, Sacred Geometry, and the Shifting Influence of Masonry. In the depths of ancient esoteric traditions lies the royal art, mastery over sacred geometry, and the spiritual patterns that underlie creation. This was not a mere intellectual pursuit, but a sacred discipline, grounded in the understanding that by mastering these cosmic principles, humanity could actively participate in the evolution of the universe. Ancient teachings suggest that higher spiritual beings shape the world through geometric precision. The very fabric of nature, the movements of the stars, and the cycles of life were constructed through sacred geometry aligned with cosmic law. Humanity, as evolving spiritual beings, carries the responsibility to learn and embody these patterns, to become conscious creators of future worlds. This is the true legacy of the royal art. Not just understanding the structure of the cosmos, but becoming architects of the next cycle of evolution. This ancient responsibility found expression in the Masonic tradition. The Masons were not merely builders of stone, but initiates charged with preserving and transmitting sacred geometry's deeper knowledge. Their work was twofold: building cathedrals that amplified cosmic energies and refining the inner temple. The human body, through disciplined spiritual practice. This was the essence of operative Masonry, a spiritual technology for both external and internal evolution. But over time, as with all spiritual systems, Masonry evolved. By the 1700s, it transitioned from operative to speculative Masonry. The focus shifted from sacred construction to philosophical exploration and fraternity. And while this transition carried positive influences, like shaping constitutional democracies rooted in balance and law, it also marked the slow dilution of deeper esoteric knowledge. Founding figures of the United States, many of whom were Masons, encoded the principles of balance and cosmic order into the nation's structure. Checks and balances mirrored cosmic equilibrium, creating a governance model that could evolve over time. However, these founders were not free from shadow, with some complicit in slavery and exploitation. Yet, the spiritual framework they shaped was still an attempt to align society with universal law. But much of the deeper esoteric wisdom has faded. Dr. Robert Gilbert reflects on this loss, sharing his personal experience with one of America's oldest Masonic lodges in Savannah, Georgia. Invited to speak on sacred geometry, he found that the lodge's highest-ranking members, the past masters, admitted they no longer understood the deeper principles at the tradition's core. They referred vaguely to someone in another lodge who might know more. But for them, the knowledge was gone. This encounter revealed a larger truth. Many modern Masonic lodges have become primarily social organizations. Discussions within these circles suggested simplifying the process of advancement, suggesting that initiatory work, once requiring years of discipline, could be condensed into a weekend for the sake of social engagement. And while this might sustain community, it strips away the spiritual rigor and depth that true initiation requires. This pattern is not unique to Masonry. Throughout history, spiritual systems lose depth over time. What begins as an initiatory path rooted in cosmic law becomes diluted, reduced to hollow rituals. The outer form remains, but the inner power fades. Yet, the seed of the original wisdom remains. Dr. Gilbert suggests that while mainstream Masonry may have shifted, deeper initiatory knowledge likely persists in hidden circles. Influence shifts over time, moving to new configurations and organizations. Because spiritual evolution is never static. It adapts, responding to the movements of culture and consciousness. This opens a profound question. What is the legacy of Masonry today? Is it still a living force for spiritual awakening? Or has its influence moved into new systems? Perhaps both are true. In its original form, Masonry was a Christic impulse, an effort to bring divine order into manifestation, balancing the polarities of light and matter, and aligning with the sacred harmony of the cosmos. But like all things, Masonry faced shadows. Greed, ego, and control crept into its rituals and traditions. Sacred practices became corrupted, symbols hollowed out. This reflects a deeper spiritual law. All systems are vulnerable to corruption. The fall into shadow is not born of evil, but of neglect. When discipline fades, when deeper practices are abandoned, the shadow naturally grows. And this is why spiritual sovereignty is essential. Each individual is called to become a living Mason, a builder of sacred temples within their own being, to align with sacred geometry, refine the energy body, and become a vessel for higher consciousness. This is not a process that can be rushed or reduced to superficial ritual. It is lifelong work, requiring discipline, humility, and devotion. Because true spiritual initiation cannot be bypassed. It is the slow, deliberate structuring of consciousness, the refining of inner architecture to hold the patterns of divine light. And this is the living legacy of the royal art, not confined to history, but alive in anyone willing to walk the path of mastery. Anyone willing to build the inner temple, to shape their consciousness in alignment with cosmic law, and to carry forward the ancient responsibility of creation. This is the work that will carry the royal art into the future. Chapter 29. The democratization of esoteric wisdom and the awakening of the new alchemy. In ancient times, esoteric knowledge was a guarded treasure, shared only with those who proved their discipline and readiness. This secrecy wasn't elitism, but necessity, protection against misuse and persecution. Sacred teachings were veiled in symbols, rituals, and layers of initiation, safeguarding both the knowledge and those who carried it. But we are in a new age. As Dr. Robert Gilbert reflects, the structures that once enforced secrecy have weakened. Modern powers, distracted by politics, economics, and technology, have forgotten the depth of spiritual wisdom. They focus on controlling the surface while missing the deeper, unfolding movement of spiritual awakening happening beneath. And this is an advantage. While external forces focus on material control, a profound remembering is taking place. Spiritual seekers are weaving together ancient threads. Hermetic wisdom, Rosicrucian teachings, Kabbalistic principles, Buddhist insights, into a new spiritual alchemy. This isn't about reviving the past, but creating something new. A synthesis that honors every tradition while moving beyond rigid boundaries. Because every era requires its own alchemy. Ancient knowledge is powerful, but it must evolve. Today's spiritual journey is about integrating timeless wisdom with the needs of the present, awakening the dragon of consciousness that has long slept beneath the surface. This is why Dr. Gilbert founded the Vesica Institute, not to create hierarchy, but to gather, clarify, and transmit teachings from diverse traditions. His goal is simple: to cut through confusion, offer clear practices, and empower individuals to shape their own paths. The heart of this approach is sovereignty. Dr. Gilbert rejects the role of guru, or infallible authority. His work is about providing information, offering insights, and encouraging individuals to take what resonates, discard what doesn't, and forge their unique spiritual journey. True spiritual evolution is not about following, it's about awakening to one's own truth. This is the new alchemy: integration, empowerment, and freedom. It's about recognizing that ancient wisdom isn't external. It lives within each of us. We carry the memories of lifetimes spent seeking and practicing. We are the continuation of a lineage that stretches beyond time. And the work we do today, refining consciousness, activating the energy body, contributing to collective awakening, shapes not only our evolution, but the evolution of humanity itself. This is the next phase of spiritual evolution. It's about becoming conscious creators, architects of the next spiritual renaissance. It's about embodying higher consciousness, radiating balance and harmony into the collective field. It's about reclaiming power, not for domination, but for service, not for control, but for upliftment, not for escape, but for integration. The age of hierarchy is ending. The era of hidden wisdom is dissolving. We're stepping into an age of democratized knowledge, shared awakening, and collective empowerment. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. Showing up, doing the work, walking the path with humility and courage. The Vesica Institute is not about followers. It's about creating paths, offering tools and insights for individuals to become their own teachers, their own guides, their own masters. Because the world doesn't need more gurus. It needs sovereign initiates. Empowered individuals who know how to listen to spirit, align with truth, and act with love and integrity. This is the deepest work. Building the inner temple, crafting the structure of consciousness that can hold the infinite light. It's about awakening the ancient power within, shaping the next golden age, one heart, one step, one soul at a time. And it begins now. Thank you for listening.